Eiffel Tower on the blue background, red flags and blue flags, they're being waved all around the ground. I have to say, if you're a professional footballer, Matt, and you're coming out into this, then you cannot fail, surely, to be motivated.
No, if you're not a professional footballer, I'm sitting here and it's a buzz, actually, sitting in this atmosphere, looking around and being lined up on that pitch. These are the games you want to be involved in. These are the matches that you want to take part in as a professional football player, and what a privilege for all of them.
And just to underline it again, the weather here tonight is absolutely torrential rain. For the last 2 or 3 hours, we've got parapluies everywhere. They've been right along the side of the pitch. I've noticed that the good people of Paris coming into the expensive seats, which are down in front of us, the comfy seats, they've been coming in very daintily, holding their umbrellas and sort of trying to brush off all of the rain.
Do you reckon they had to do 3 laps of the stadium before they could get in tonight as well?
I would guess not.
No, maybe.
That would cause havoc with the cashmere, wouldn't it? So they are safe. I'm delighted to say they're all very safely in and dry. And the teams are just peeling away now. The 2 captains are there over the halfway line. Kevin De Bruyne and Marquinhos, who's returning, the Brazilian veteran, the captain of Brazil, the captain of Paris Saint-Germain. He's just running away with the pennant, and the 2 teams going into their huddle. So a glance at the Champions League table will tell you what's at stake here tonight. And admittedly, it's not a table that is easy just to glance at. You have to give it a bit of time. But if you look at the line, the elimination line, Manchester City are just above that line in 24th, and Paris Saint-Germain are in 26th. And it is entirely possible that one of these two giants of the current European club game might not make it through to the knockout stage. You have to finish in the top 24. If you don't, you're out. So the teams tonight: Donnarumma in goal, the Italian international, who's getting a huge cheer as he runs away to the goal to our right. So Donnarumma in goal, Hakimi at right back, Marquinhos with Pacho, the Ecuadorian central defender, and then Nuno Mendes at left back. In midfield, Vitinha, former Wolves man. There's the whistle from Simon Marciniak, the World Cup final referee himself. And Manchester City kick off and play the ball back to Ederson. Here's Foden on the right. I'll run you through the rest of that Paris Saint-Germain team in a moment. In fact, Foden is dispossessed, so it's played up through the middle to Lee, and now the ball to the left-hand side. Barcola chasing, but he won't get there. The pass runs all the way through to Ederson. So the PSG midfield: Vitinha with Fabian Ruiz, the European Championship winner with Spain last summer, and João Neves coming in, the young Portuguese international. And then that front line with the false 9, Lee, Doué, the teenager, and Barcola, who is PSG's top scorer this season with 12 goals. Ederson passes it out, and that's a foul on Bernardo Silva. Very cool, again, in the pouring rain. And there's been an early goal in London with you, Conor McNamara.
A quite brilliant early goal for Arsenal, scored by Declan Rice inside 2 minutes, and Arsenal had barely allowed Dinamo Zagreb a single touch of the ball in those opening 2 minutes. It was tiki-taka all the way, edge of the Croatian side penalty area, and eventually, after a multiple pass move, it was teed up for Rice to fire home from close range. Arsenal 1, Dinamo Zagreb 0.
So I think that is going to take Arsenal up to 3rd place in the table. Liverpool top, Barcelona 2nd, and Arsenal will be going 3rd, although slightly worryingly, the table that we've got here hasn't yet updated itself. That's not what we need, Matt.
No, they're sitting 4th on our table.
5th?
5th, is it?
That's a worry. We need good Wi-Fi. As PSG cut the ball out centre field. I'll run you through the Manchester City side as well, but there's no Doku. He wasn't able to travel. Gundogan is on the bench here, so 2 changes. Savinho and Bernardo Silva coming in, and here is Bernardo Silva. Excellent play from him. Gives it to Kovacic, to the edge of the area, then to the left-hand side. Low ball across from De Bruyne, but that was blocked by Hakimi, and the ball bounces away behind for the first corner. Promising from Manchester City.
Wow, silky smooth from Bernardo Silva. He picks the ball up and he drives. He's a lovely shimmy with his upper body. Throws a defender one way, skips to the left, then offloads the ball as the tackle comes in. I just felt Kovacic could have maybe been a bit more aggressive with his pass, but he put it wide.
De Bruyne takes the corner short to Bernardo Silva, then it comes centrally to Kovacic, but he was quickly closed down, and actually City haven't made the best of that. They could have put early pressure on Paris Saint-Germain, and this is a little sloppy from them, and in the end De Bruyne's got to play it all the way back from the halfway line to Ederson.
I'll tell you what, it is ain't off a quick pitch though, John, isn't it? We've had this rain and it's still coming down, teeming down, but the pitch is very greasy. The ball is skipping rather quickly.
Yes, there could be mistakes, and actually in saying that, they've given it away. Manchester City, here's Barcola, 25 yards out, quickly closed down, then the ball out to the right-hand side. Hakimi's ball in, but too close to the City goalkeeper Ederson, who's able to fall forward and grab it just outside the 6-yard box.
Well, there's no out-and-out centre-forward on the pitch for PSG, and I think that's the kind of thing the supporters look at and go, that kind of ball comes in the box, skimming along the surface, with the back four running back towards their own goal. You want a centre-forward in there to be a nuisance, and they just didn't have it on that occasion, PSG.
And you were right, Lee is playing through the middle, really, the South Korean.
Yeah.
And the teenager, the 19-year-old Due, is on the right, as that pass is overhit by Mateus Nunes, straight out of play for a throw-in.
He's dropping very deep in this game, though, Lee, because he is the link-up man, so he's coming in, and it's just a huge responsibility for the young João Neves, Fabian Ruiz, or anyone really, to run beyond, because they're going to have to stretch Man City. For all the good football and link-up they might have, they've got to try and get behind City.
So it is 0-0. BBC Radio 5 Live. BBC Radio Manchester are with us as well, so welcome to you as the ball is played over the top now for Doué to break down the right flank. Gvardiol is with him. Doué, nice footwork, shoots from the angle, and it was on target as well. Ederson just had to drop to his left to push it around, but it was on target, even though the angle was very tight. Yeah,
good effort, good strike with the right foot, couple of step overs, shifts it to the right, hits it to the near post, and doesn't half get the crowd up. Not that the atmosphere needs lifting, but off of that effort, the massive roar around this stadium.
First attempt on target, and a corner to PSG from the right-hand side. It's where all the PSG ultras are. Deep corner to the back post. Gvardiol is under that, unchallenged. He's able to head it away, and then the ball is swirled in from the left-hand side by Nuno Mendes. Manchester City are able to clear that, and then it's volleyed up over the centre circle. Foden tried to bring it down, bounced back to Bernardo Silva, but a heavy touch over there from Savinho gives possession back to the mainly blue kit of Paris Saint-Germain.
It's just a great example of how difficult these conditions are. The ball's a bar of soap. It really is. It is slipping about. When it's bouncing in front of you or coming out of the sky, the rain's in your eyes. The ball's travelling at such a pace. There's certainly scope for a mistake in this game all day long. I think playing out from the back, certainly goalkeepers have to be very wary with their first touch. 5 Live, Paris Saint-Germain 0, Manchester City 0. Arsenal already winning 1-0 against Dinamo Zagreb, which is actually good news for Manchester City and Paris Saint-Germain, because Dinamo Zagreb are the team that are in between Manchester City and Paris Saint-Germain in the Champions League table. Got a choice of listening as well tonight. The Celtic Young Boys match is on Sports Extra right now. It's a simulcast with BBC Radio Scotland. We're going to go to Glasgow in a moment, but it is Savinho who's breaking away down the left wing for Manchester City, but he had to check back and he was dispossessed, and PSG have got it back, and here's a pass now to the left-hand side to Barcola, who's able to get it down, and Barcola moves infield. He's up against Akanji retreating. Barcola gives it squared to the edge of the penalty area, and then it's rolled all the way back more centrally to Nuno Mendes. So let's bring in Ailey Barber from Celtic Park to see how things have started there.
Well, Celtic have had the ball in the back of the net, but Kyogo had just made his move too early, offside, but it's been an electrifying start here. The game has been played at such a pace. Maeda is getting in behind time and again, but as yet it hasn't been able to make it count. It is still Celtic 0, Young Boys 0.
Vitinha just carries the ball forward, and then it finds its way to the right-hand side to Hakimi, who just runs his foot over the ball, the Moroccan World Cup player. Then back to Vitinha again on the edge of the box, now out to the right-hand side, where Paris Saint-Germain are being very patient there with this backdrop here inside the stadium, the great Parc des Princes with its huge concrete roof. The atmosphere is almost deafening as it's played infield by Nuno Mendes, who was very nearly given it back by Doué, and he got a touch off, I think, Akanji, as it ran through for a corner.
Yeah, lovely give and go, and his sharp defensive work from Akanji. The moment the ball gets popped past him, he doesn't just stand and watch, he turns and gets back in his hole. He manages to get a toe on the ball, and he's slotted into that right back position this evening, Akanji, John. The back four of City got Gvardiol and Diaz in the middle, and Nunez at left back with Akanji in the right back slot.
Yeah, there's the space there, isn't there, for Paris Saint-Germain, if they can exploit it. Lee is going to take this corner for Paris Saint-Germain. That is headed away by Gvardiol, and PSG keep the ball in play, so it's back to Vitinha again. As I always say when I see Vitinha play, I'll never forget him scoring in the FA Cup for Wolves when he was on loan at Chorley from about 35 yards. Things didn't really work out for him at Wolverhampton Wanderers, but never mind, here he is playing for Paris Saint-Germain as Manchester City concede a foul near the halfway line, shoved over Mateus Nunes with a shove in the back on Lee, and it remains 0-0. The Women's League Cup quarter-finals are all being played, different kick-off times. Let's get the latest on Brighton Arsenal from Paul Scott.
Half-time here, it's Brighton 0, Arsenal 0. Arsenal dominating in terms of chances. Alessia Russo with the best opportunity. She headed straight at the goalkeeper from 6 yards. Half-time, Brighton 0, Arsenal 0.
Still Chelsea 2, Durham 0 as PSG break away, and that's a yellow card from Simon Marciniak. Hakimi was bursting forward, and Ruben Diaz just nudged him over, and the yellow card was instant.
Yeah, it was a bursting run, and he's running past Diaz. He's on from a standing position, so he's just toast really as the momentum, and all he can do, Diaz, is step across his path and throw his left arm up almost around his neck height, and it is a yellow card, I have to say. It's a cynical block, and deservedly in the book for that one, Diaz, and he has to be careful now.
Also Tottenham 1, West Ham 1, Manchester United 1, Manchester City 2 in those League Cup quarter-finals. As Paris Saint-Germain played the free kick in to the back post, and that was a chance headed up and over, arriving at the back post. It was João Neves who was in there, the 20-year-old Portuguese, who mistimed it really and headed it up and over the bar.
Oh, it's a poor header. It really is. Should be 1-0. Should certainly hit the target. I mean, he ghosts in back behind Mateus Nunes, who isn't aware of him being there. He's just a player at the back post. Gets a clean head on it. Just doesn't head it down at all. Just poor technique over the crossbar. Should certainly hit the target. If he does, he probably scores.
And now Phil Foden is fouled, hence the anger that is shown by the Paris Saint-Germain supporters in the stands, and Manchester City very cleverly, very wisely are slowing this down. I see on our screen here, I see that the UEFA president Alexander Cheferin is here. He's sitting next to the PSG president Nasser El Khelaifi, and also sitting next to one another are none other than Thomas Tuchel and Didier Deschamps, the managers of England and France, sitting next to each other watching the champions of England and France, where it is 0-0, and the ball's out of play for a throw into PSG, and we can get an update from John Akers in the Championship watching Plymouth Burnley.
Burnley are ahead, brilliant finish this, right-footed from Zion Fleming after a drilled low cross from the right-hand side from Brownhill. Argyle gave the ball away cheaply. It's all Burnley at the moment, Plymouth 0, Burnley 1.
Yeah, Fleming's 7th goal for his new club this season, and that's going to be tough for Plymouth, as John was explaining earlier. Still Leeds United 1, Norwich City 0, Portsmouth 2, Stoke 0, and Sheffield Wednesday 0, Bristol City 0 in the 4 matches in the Championship tonight. But 0-0 here, which means Manchester City are still above that elimination line. Paris Saint-Germain now right behind them, with Dinamo Zagreb losing. PSG 25th and Manchester City 24th. And we will bring you full coverage next Wednesday night of the final matches, when all 18 matches are being played at the same time. Don't miss it. Diaz, long pass for De Bruyne, right over the top, he allows it to bounce, then he stabs it across to Haaland, who tried to give it back to Foden, and then the shot, it's deflected, could be handball. De Bruyne with the effort, that's saved by Donnarumma. but Savinho was appealing there. He hit the volley from the edge of the area, it hit a PSG defender in the box, and he immediately turned and appealed to the referee for a handball.
Well, you'll get any handball in this competition if the ball strikes it, whether it's intentional or not, or arm by your side, it just tends to get given. I didn't think it did, and it certainly wasn't seen on field.
Yeah, as Mateus Nunes now crosses from the right-hand side for Manchester City. I thought that had struck the hand of Hakimi as he was running it out of the penalty area, but no, there's no appeal for that. And my mind goes back actually last season here in the Parc des Princes with a Newcastle match when Livramento was very unfortunate when Newcastle United conceded a late penalty, and it really cost them.
Yeah, they see that rule in particular completely different to how we have it in the Premier League. I genuinely think we're miles ahead with interpreting correct or incorrect handballs in European competitions. It's just a penalty straight away. And back to that chance though, John, what a run from Kevin De Bruyne from midfield. He burst through, good spot from Diaz, and the ball skipped into his path, and the vision of De Bruyne, it was bouncing, and he just flicked it with the outside of his right boot to find Haaland. It was lovely play from the City skipper.
Yes, high class, wasn't it?
Beautiful.
To find a pass like that.
Yeah, the vision and just the technique to execute it.
And Mateus Nunes with a heavy pass. Now PSG have got it back. Here's Barcola on the left wing. Mateus Nunes trying to get back. Barcola's beaten him, but fortunately for City, Akanji was there coming in and was able just to step in and cap the pass back to Ederson.
That's the problem moment, that right there, that matchup. That's the weakness for City, and that's the strength for PSG.
PSG with the ball near the edge of the area. Foden turns, he plays that away. I see that Inter are winning 1-0 at Sparta Prague, so that means that Aston Villa have now dropped out of the top 8, so that the teams that go automatically through to the round of 16, Aston Villa have dropped now, for the time being at least, down to 9th with that Inter goal. Sparta Prague 0, Inter 1. Paris Saint-Germain 0, Manchester City 0. Arsenal winning 1-0 against Dinamo Zagreb, so they're up to 3rd place in the table, and still Celtic 0, Young Boys 0. And a reminder as well that 5 Live Champions League final score is available tonight, when you can listen to our coverage, the commentary here on 5 Live, alongside the final score graphics and the video printer. If you press your red button or go to the iPlayer or BBC Sport website and click on Champions League final score. So on this wet night here, persistently raining in Paris, and we're watching PSG in possession with Nuno Mendes, the Portuguese left back, and then Mateus Nunes is in to win the ball back. Haaland with a flick, but that's behind Savinho. Hakimi in with a challenge on him, and then PSG are able to win possession back. It's a highly competitive match, Matt Upson.
Yep, PSG have to drive this tempo. I think the moment they step off it and just allow City to get in their groove and get in their rhythm, have more of the ball that's unpressurised, and if they're not flustering them and trying to drive at them as well, I think it plays into City's hands. So I'd expect PSG to really try and maintain this kind of tempo. It's going to be difficult because the game started at a heck of a pace.
Yeah, and they're really fluid, aren't they? Ousmane Dembélé is on the bench. He's missed the last couple because he's been unwell, but doesn't come back in for this. But the team that Luis Enrique has got out there, as the ball is played for, I think an offside flag, yes it is. And free kick to Manchester City. You know, there's great movement between the front players and the midfield players. Luis Enrique standing down there, not far away from his old teammate at Barcelona. The two of them together played in over 100 matches together, and also played for Spain together. And here they are now, rivals. 5th time they've met as coaches. They've won 2 each, and it's all square tonight. Paris Saint-Germain 0, Manchester City 0. Here's one for Haaland to chase. Haaland has got PSG defenders either side, and the Manchester City top scorer finds De Bruyne on the edge of the box, who's arriving. De Bruyne is able to turn, then play it back to Bernardo Silva, playing in this central role, and then Kovacic as City go back towards the halfway line. Control is so important here tonight, as Akanji carries it forward, then via a little deflection finds Mateus Nunes, and Mateus Nunes infield to Phil Foden. Foden now in form, 6 goals in his last 7 appearances. Foden left-footed, looking for Savinho on the left-hand side. He gets that down. He's up against Hakimi in the PSG right back position. Then it comes back to Gvardiol, Kovacic, and Kovacic's pass evades De Bruyne, and PSG have got it back.
Yeah, he looks for that ball into the middle, Kovacic, to break the line, and PSG really did drop back into position really well. Got plenty of midfield players behind the ball, forcing City wide. Kovacic tries to play through the middle. Pass was a fraction out, and that's all it will be this evening. I think this game will be won or lost on those little fractions or moments. It's going to be such a high level.
Paris Saint-Germain 0, Manchester City 0. Tomorrow night as well, don't miss it. The small matter of Manchester United against Rangers in the Europa League. Coverage from Old Trafford, live commentary, 5 Live, the place to hear it. Fabian Ruiz now for Barcola down the left-hand side. City trying to get back. Barcola, right-footed ball, right over to the far side to Hakimi, who will have a goal, but it's straight at Ederson, who gathers the ball into his orange jersey.
I mean, he's very advanced as well, isn't he, Hakimi? From that right-back position, he is getting up and down the right-hand side. It's a comfortable save for Ederson. He takes the shot very early, it's low, it's into the middle of the goal, but he's got real intent, the PSG right-back, and he's got a licence to get forward.
Oh, Ederson's given that what for? Well, I'm not sure he timed it on his left foot. He absolutely powered it, probably 50 yards beyond anyone in a Manchester City shirt. And tonight they're wearing the Definitely Maybe kit, the Definitely City kit as they call it, with those same colours, that sort of sandy, pinky, bluey colours of the Oasis album cover. As they go back to Ederson, who passes this out carefully to Kovacic, and then Diaz over there to Gvardiol, and Manchester City just trying to quieten this crowd. PSG absolutely dominating the French league this season. They're well clear at the top of the table. Fortunate bounce for City. Foden is able to come and claim the loose ball in centre field, then Gvardiol plays it infield, and then Savinho passes it beyond De Bruyne, who has to come over here to the right, and De Bruyne's ball was closed down and deflected out of play by João Neves for a throw down the right here.
Yeah, well done, João Neves. Gets across really quickly, sees the danger. The moment Kevin De Bruyne is lining up his right foot from this right-hand side, you know the quality into the box is going to be top-notch. And PSG really did take a gamble. Marquinhos went all the way in to the City, almost edge of their box to win the ball.
Nice from Foden. Haaland with the header, but it's straight at Donnarumma. Actually, a couple of quick steps to his right from the big man, the goalkeeper, and he caught the ball cleanly just above his head.
Yeah, great dink from Phil Foden on his right foot, gets to the byline, just gets his head up, sees Haaland in the box. You know if you just hang it in there, he's going to go and attack it, gets good contact on the ball, but the header goes straight at Donnarumma. He can't quite get an angle into the corner, but nice little piece of play from Foden.
Yes, I hope he had a good night's sleep last night, Erling Haaland.
Better than you, hopefully.
Yes, of course. Haaland would say,
after talking your sleep up last night, John.
Yeah, that's it. Complacency, you see. It's one of the biggest enemies in sport.
Are you blaming the bed or just the pillows? Pillows weren't quite right for
Erling Haaland.
The big Murray.
Erling Haaland said to us yesterday that he started measuring his sleep, and one thing that he's done better this season is measuring his sleep. So we spoke, didn't we, on the Football Daily last night about what good sleepers you and I are. Yeah. And then I had the worst sleep last night that I've had for eons.
Yeah, I was fine.
Yeah, well, good. I'm pleased. PSG 0, Manchester City 0, and all the while sitting in the studio just keeping tabs on things is John Bennett. Actually, John, give us a moment, because here's Savinho, who's wriggled away down the left-hand side, plays it across to Foden, but Foden couldn't control it. It was hit at him with such pace that the touch gave it back to PSG, but groans because the French champions have lost the ball again. Mateus Nunes will go back to the centre circle. So, John Bennett.
Yeah, this is an interesting one, John. Feyenoord 1, Bayern Munich 0. Santiago Jimenez on the break. It means that Bayern Munich dropped to 15th, and right now Aston Villa back in the top 8. Feyenoord 1, Bayern Munich 0.
Thank you very much. PSG 0, Manchester City 0, and we've almost reached the midway point of this first half. Still Arsenal winning 1-0 against Dinamo Zagreb, so up in the top 3 And still Celtic 0, Young Boys 0, and that commentary is on 5 Sports Extra as De Bruyne plays it forward. Yes, there was a tug back, wasn't there, on Mateus Nunes, and again referee Marciniak out with the yellow card immediately.
Yeah, the left back Mendy gets done with the movement of Nunes. He just drops his shoulder and then goes behind. The ball gets played in and he just grabs hold of his waist and fouls him. And I'm just looking at the PSG players. They really are pressing high, John. They're going all out to try and force Manchester City into a mistake, certainly in their own half. You just wonder how long they can keep this kind of tempo up for. They're not, you know, in their league, they don't have to play too many matches at a ridiculously high tempo. They've been cruising it a little bit this season. But this game physically is going to be a big challenge for this PSG team.
Yes, unbeaten domestically, but Bernardo Silva's given it away to Lee, and now Barcola is released to the edge of the area. City have got 2 men back on him, but Lee takes up possession for PSG, wanted to cross it there, but Akanji was in the way. However, he swung it over left-footed. It's gone all the way over to the far side to Hakimi, who has Fabian Ruiz available in his white boots. Fabian Ruiz again will return it back towards the halfway line. Yes, the referee, the Polish referee Marciniak, who took charge of that extraordinary World Cup final in Qatar. The floodlights here with all of the rain really gleaming off the top of his bald head. But he also refereed the Champions League final, which was won by Manchester City, and he also refereed the FIFA Club World Cup final that was won by Manchester City as well. 0-0 here on the night as the ball goes back to Willian Pacho, the central defender. Kimpembe's on the bench.
You just get the feeling a little bit, that little attack there that PSG had, all very nice, turned the ball over on the break, but there's not really that threat, is there, in the box? There just isn't one.
Ruben Diaz there, who's already been booked. This is 15 yards inside the PSG half. He went with a very high foot there in on the challenge, and he's got to be really careful.
He's very lucky. He actually catches him with his knee in the face. Ruben Diaz jumping forward on Doué with his right foot, trying to, as the ball comes in, like stud the ball away with the sole of his foot. He doesn't get there, and he jumps so high, and he's just a little duck of the head from Doué, and he catches him with his knee in the side of the face, right in front of the referee.
Matt, guaranteed that was a yellow card had he not been yellow carded.
Possibly, but he didn't even look like he considered it, did he? He just waved it off.
PSG 0, Manchester City 0, and actually the PSG players didn't make a great deal of it either. So
I think it was hard to see. It was like a glancing blow, wasn't it?
Real Madrid are winning 1-0 against Salzburg, and remember, Real Madrid are also right down towards the wrong end of the table from their point of view, the holders, as PSG win it back. Challenge from Kovacic, he didn't make it. Now the ball to Doué, right side of the area, dwelt on the ball, gives it back though, Fabian Ruiz, then the shot from the edge of the area from Coutinho, which took a flick off a defender on its way, narrowly wide of the foot of the left post for a corner.
Yeah, they're hunting Manchester City down in midfield, great pressure from João Neves, who I think's been excellent at the start of this game. He's after Kovacic, he's after Bernardo Silva. When that ball's getting played straight into the City player with their back to play, he is on their touch straight away, and he's just turning it over in really good areas of the pitch.
Real Madrid leading against Salzburg with a goal from Rodrigo, so that's Real Madrid up to 17th. Here's the PSG corner, and it lands for Fabian Ruiz, shoots, it's blocked on the line, then the shot from Vitinha is also blocked inside the penalty area. City had so many bodies in there, but the chance for Fabian Ruiz, I have to say, I thought it was a cert that he put that in the back of the net, but he couldn't find a way through with the shot.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, the 2 set pieces that I've seen come into the box, City have not dealt with. It's a concern. Now the header earlier on for João Neves, and this one here, it's not dealt with, it's then deflected then off. Is it Diaz who gets that, and it's bang off the line. Vardiol drops onto the line. That is a superb clearance, that.
Yeah.
It's like scoring a goal from Vardiol there. He dropped onto the line, he's going in the back of the net. I saw the reaction from the PSG players, and you could tell that they were thinking it was in, looking to turn away and run off as if they'd scored, but He gets back and with his thigh just blocks it right on the goal line.
Yeah, thinking, perhaps hoping as well that he might have blocked it with his arm, but he didn't. It was an excellent clearance from Gvardiol. So still Paris Saint-Germain 0, Manchester City 0. And now ball to the left-hand side for Doué. Doué's popped up on that flank, comes in field but runs into trouble on the edge of the Manchester City box. And then in slides João Neves again, but Manchester City, this is so competitive. They are going toe-to-toe here, these two sides, with so much at stake. Foden's pass forward, that's cut out by Marquinhos. PSG come again with the ball on the right-hand side. Barcala's over there now instead. And then Hakimi, and it just settles down again. Still 0-0 here. Arsenal 1-0 up, and still Celtic 0, Young Boys 0 in Glasgow. Almost half an hour played. It's been compelling stuff in the Champions League here in the French capital on this wet night. Vitinha now over to Marquinhos, and Marquinhos picks out Hakimi again near the corner of the box. Back it goes to João Neves. Just all on the right-hand side for PSG as the rain continues to teem down into the great bowl of the Parc des Princes. Now it's worked by Fabian Ruiz, and the ball in from Doué, headed away, comes out to Vitinha, and it bounces for Manchester City, and De Bruyne then will bring it forward, and he's been upended by Marquinhos. The referee's played the advantage. Marquinhos tries to get back at Savinho. Savinho keeps his feet, plays it through for Haaland, left side of the area. Haaland up against Pacho, and Pacho does extremely well. He just got enough on it there to take it away. In fact, it was Nuno Mendes, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Nuno Mendes who came across and defended it extremely well against Haaland.
Yeah.
It was last ditch, but it worked.
It was brilliant pressure all the way from left back. He senses the danger, he matches the run of Haaland, and he doesn't allow him to settle. He gets so tight and makes contact, really unsettles him. So Haaland, it's difficult, he's running away from goal, so he's got to put the brakes on. Doesn't allow him a chance. It was top defended from the left back.
Super break as well, and
yeah.
I think Marquinhos might have been fortunate not to be yellow
Very
carded
lucky
for his initial challenge on Kevin De Bruyne. Going back to Arsenal in a moment, but first of all, Nuno Mendes out to the right-hand side, now inside the box on the right once again. João Neves causing problems. Hakimi with a shot that's blocked inside the penalty area, and Kevin De Bruyne turns it away to the space on the left-hand side as Manchester City look to break, but they don't go full tilt, and actually they're just going to try and calm it
breather.
down.
I think it just calmed the tempo. I mean, the game's barely being played in the centre of the pitch, is it? It's end-to-end at the moment.
Big news in Glasgow, Ailey Barber.
Celtic have the breakthrough. Callum McGregor has been absolutely amazing in the midfield for Celtic. He wins the ball, he plays in Kyogo. Kyogo already had one chalked off for offside. This one, no problem, into the bottom corner. Celtic 1, Young Boys 0.
And that edges Celtic up in the Champions League table. They started the day just above that elimination line, and very soon I'm sure that table in front of us will update itself and let us know exactly where they've gone to. Going to need better Wi-Fi next week than we have in Paris. PSG 0, Manchester City 0, and they're up to 18th. Celtic are now up to 18th in the table. Back to Plymouth, John Akers.
2-0 Burnley, brilliant quick free kick, sliding half volley cross from Jadon Anthony, and then Zion Fleming again to tap it in from close range. Plymouth 0, Burnley 2.
Manchester City on the attack with Mateus Nunes swinging the ball across, comes off Pacho's head, and it bounces behind under that huge blue carpet behind the goal with the white writing Paris in huge letters, Saint-Germain in smaller letters underneath it. Corner to Manchester City.
Well, you can't take your eyes off this. It is a top game. What a brilliant opening half an hour of a Champions League fixture. It's got a little bit of everything, this match, and now a corner with Foden in swinger with his left foot.
Foden with a corner. Bernardo Silva comes short. Foden will deliver it in towards the back post. It's over everyone, and it's actually taken down by Barkala, comfortably under no pressure. Back to Glasgow, Ailey.
Where it is actually goalless for the second time tonight. Kyogo has a goal ruled out. This time it was a foul in the build-up to the goal. Kyogo's finish was fine, he was onside that time, but the foul in the build-up means no goal. Celtic 0, Young Boys 0.
And in our table here, that presumably will take Celtic back to 22nd, and it does. So Celtic back down to 22nd. Manchester City are still in 24th with the scorelines as they are, and it's good news that Arsenal are winning 1-0 for Manchester City and for Paris Saint-Germain for that matter. And actually, on the subject of Arsenal, let's see what the latest is there with Conor McNamara.
Arsenal still leading by 1-0. Declan Rice after 104 seconds. Raheem Sterling has spurned a really good opportunity to double the lead. Kai Havertz cushioned it down to him, edge of the 6-yard box. He just needed to hit it. He tried to take a touch off his upper thigh, and the chance was away. Arsenal leading and comfortably leading at Dinamo Zagreb by 1-0.
Here in the French capital, the Olympic city of last year, where we brought you so much drama. Here we are back again for a vibrant night of Champions League football, where it is still 0-0. Half-time in the 7:45 kickoffs in the Championship to Katie Smith at Elland Road.
Leeds 1 at Norwich 0. Ferocious start in this one. Solomon lashing in from across from the right. That's gone down after 31 seconds, that goal. Fastest in the Championship this season. Norwich have done well to calm things down since then. Nothing on target to challenge though. So impressive from Leeds, their intensity. Top of the table as it stands. Leeds 1, Norwich 0.
PSG coming forward, but the ball is deflected back into the City box and is chipped away over there to the far side, where Savinho concedes a throw-in. In the other 7:45 kickoffs, Portsmouth are winning 2-1 against Stoke, and Sheffield Wednesday winning 1-0 against Bristol City. Those half-time scores. Back to Plymouth, John Akers.
3-0 Burnley. They've been absolutely brilliant, and Plymouth look like they've had the stuffing knocked out of them. No Morgan Whittaker in their squad. There's a real atmosphere around the ground now. Josh Laurent, brilliant right foot strike. First time, top corner. Plymouth 0, Burnley 3.
Further developments at Celtic Park, Ailey.
For the third time tonight, Kyogo has the ball in the back of the net, and for the third time it is chalked off. This time for offside again. I think it might have been Maeda in the build-up. His ball tapped in by Kyogo, and again that flag went up. It is still Celtic 0, Young Boys 0.
Agonising for Celtic. So frustrating.
3 times.
That is that's something else. The highlights will be on Match of the Day tonight, by the way, on BBC One with Mark Chapman and co. So that's after the news. But also, if you haven't worked this out yet, the Champions League highlights are available to watch from 10 o'clock on the iPlayer and the BBC Sport website and app. So that is from 10 o'clock. But Match of the Day will have the packaged highlights programme for you.
When you said you haven't worked it out yet, I thought you were going to refer to the table again. It's all we seem to hear. The table. Chappers is dreading it.
Yeah, he's dreading it. When we were following it all last night, and it was changing so dramatically. I was thinking, if it's like this next Wednesday, it's actually a good deal calmer tonight than it was last night.
Yeah.
PSG 0, Manchester City 0. 10 minutes to go to half-time here. It's been a good first half. Chances at both ends, and they're actually quite well matched. And it is City with Gvardiol trying to work it across, but he's out of position now. PSG have got it back, and Pacho on the almost on the edge of his 6-yard box. The Ecuadorian who arrived from Eintracht Frankfurt in the summer is able to play it out, and now Fabian Ruiz spears a pass to Hakimi, still inside his own half. Now it's down the right for Barcola, who's still out on the right-hand side, so they have switched flanks for the time being. Lee is over here on the left. Actually, Barcola's through the middle as it comes back now for Paris Saint-Germain. Fabian Ruiz, just a little touch back to Pacho.
They're really rotating that front three, aren't they? Lee's central, then he's popping on the left. You've got Doué, who's now on the right-hand side in the orange boots. He's got lovely foot. I mean, he did a little piece of footwork a moment ago on that touchline to Kovacic. I mean, it was dancing feet, to be honest.
As the ball is played through now to João Neves, who finds a little bit of space. City getting men back. Then Doué's dummies to cross. Then takes on Akanji, who's gone out there. And Paris Saint-Germain start to build again. Half-time approaching, and in the last 10 minutes of the first half. And just to underline it, if Manchester City lose this tonight, then that means they will be in the elimination places when it comes to the final night next Wednesday, when Manchester City are at home to Club Brugge, the Belgian champions. Right now, though, it's 0-0. And Lee brings it down. Fabian Ruiz with the ball into the penalty area, but Akanji is there to lean forward and head it away. Bernardo Silva just hoists one forward. Haaland, who's had one chance with a header, actually sort of had a half chance, didn't he, as well, when he was through, when Nuno Mendes defended well against him. Vitinha will pick out the ball to the right. There's so much space there for Doué, and Doué is able to bring it down, then flick it forward for Hakimi. Hakimi's ball across, Ederson comes, dives, gets both palms on that to the back post, where Mateus Nunes heads it behind for a corner.
The last 5 or 10 minutes, PSG really do have the upper hand. You feel like Luis Enrique set them up with the idea that there are some frailties at Manchester City. They've been brave the way they've gone about this game. They're pressing really high, the midfield three getting after the ball, the wide players are getting plenty of ball. It's a good moment for PSG.
It is. Be a great time to score. Rain pouring down from the roof, from the edges of the roof, down in my eye line, looking towards that end of the ground. All red, white and blue, white messages. Lee takes the corner, Ederson comes, gets a proper uppercut on that, and actually it went out before it curled back into the 6-yard box. So Manchester City, I'm sure, will take the opportunity here, if they can, to slow things down. 0-0 here in Paris. Now, are we going to bring in John Bennett, did I hear, for an update on events elsewhere? John?
Yes, 2 significant goals to tell you about. Real Madrid 2, RB Salzburg 0 now. So Real Madrid close to booking their place in the last 32. Rodrigo with his second goal, brilliant Jude Bellingham assist. And it's AC Milan 1, Girona 0. Rafael Leao with the goal. AC Milan up to 6th place now, John.
As Manchester City play forward, De Bruyne to Foden. Foden now finds Savinho, in here with a chance, shoots into the legs of Donnarumma. Ball ricochets into the penalty area, where João Neves can head it back, and there was confusion there. They left it to one another, Donnarumma and Hakimi, and while they left it, the ball bounced up over the line, so it's a corner. Right. Straight back to Celtic though before this corner, because
Celtic have a penalty. Arne Engels, he has a 100% record and he has missed. It is straight down the middle. Marvin Keller clutches the ball in his hands. What an opportunity for Celtic to take the lead here, and Arne Engels has missed from the spot. It is still Celtic 0, Young Boys 0.
What a dramatic first half there. Corner for Manchester City, De Bruyne in, but that's a stretch of the leg from Vitinha to block it at the near post. Bounces back to De Bruyne, his cross is deflected behind off Lee for another Manchester City corner for the left. What a dramatic first half at Celtic, but no goals. Likewise here, 0-0.
Yeah, no, but I mean, Manchester City, I think, enjoying. You can hear the boos around the stadium because the PSG fans just want to hurry the tempo. They can feel their team getting some momentum. And City, Kevin De Bruyne, has just taken their time with this set play.
Here it comes, and Donnarumma comes and is able, in amongst a crowd of players, to lean into them. Such a big man, punch it away, and then Foden is picked up for a sort of tangle with Barcola. It's clumsy from Barcola, and a free kick to Manchester City on the right.
Yeah, it looked a free kick. They're both running towards the touchline. Foden wants the ball. Barcola's in behind him. He puts the brakes on just to steady himself, and he does clatter into the back of him, the PSG man. Foden goes down, rightly so, but it's a free kick very wide on the right hand side. Foden and De Bruyne over it. You feel it probably will be the in-swinger of Phil Foden, but dangerous situation for PSG to have to defend now.
Has a massive field, this match, with the rain pouring down, and Foden runs over the ball, and De Bruyne takes it into the back post. Gvardiol is able to head it to Bernardo Silva, left-footed cross, and it comes off Marquinhos' head, who was jumping ahead of Ruben Dias, and the PSG captain. A crucial interception, and it's behind for another corner.
I'll tell you, Donnarumma went fishing for that as well. There wasn't a lot of communication coming out of his mouth because he flicked it right out of his hands there, Marquinhos.
De Bruyne with this latest corner that curls all the way out of the penalty area, and actually Kovacic did well to get there ahead of Barcola, and Kovacic has volleyed it back into his own half, and suddenly Manchester City on the back foot. as it's played back to Ederson. Ederson just drags it onto his right foot. Then downfield, oh, that's a slip by Nuno Mendes on this slippery surface, and that means that Kevin De Bruyne is able to get in there and win it back for Manchester City. And then they lose possession, and then Gvardiol scampers in to pick up possession again for Manchester City. Well, that was excellent work from Doué, who I thought was going to foul Gvardiol, but he took the ball as clean as a whistle in the centre circle.
It's been a real feature of this PSG first half performance, hasn't it? They've been far better out of possession than what I was expecting. They've really got after City.
Young team, really, and Fabian Ruiz now crossing from the left-hand side. Akanji to Foden. They're playing this away very nicely, Manchester City, but that's a heavy touch from Savinho. That'll give it back to PSG. We've got less than 3 minutes of the first half to play. It's still 0-0 here, and that means that Manchester City are still in 24th, where they started the day, and PSG are below the line in the elimination places in 25th.
So a draw would need both of them needing a win in their last game, realistically.
Probably, yeah, you'd say that. PSG go to Germany to play Stuttgart, and Manchester City at home to Club Bruges. Let's get another update from Paul Scott, who's watching the quarter-final in the Women's League Cup between Brighton and Arsenal.
67 minutes on the clock here. The goal has been coming. It's Brighton 0, Arsenal 1. The defending champions taking the lead. A mistake at the back from the home side. Mariona Caldente fed it through to Frida Manen with a simple tap in. It's Brighton 0, Arsenal 1.
Chelsea have won 5-0 against Durham. That is over. Still Manchester United 1, Manchester City 2, and Tottenham 1, West Ham 2. The latest score, all in the Women's League Cup quarter-finals. Here, Paris Saint-Germain 0, Manchester City 0 in the UEFA Champions League phase, as PSG lose possession on the edge of the Manchester City box, and Phil Foden is trying to work it away and perhaps tried to take on too much. Home cheers here from the Parisians as PSG dispossess Foden and have it with João Neves, who plays it forward to Nuno Mendes, and then back to Nuno Mendes, who's in, squares it. This is the big chance. Hakimi makes it 1-0. Deflected to the Moroccan near the penalty spot, and arriving on 20, drove it into the back of the Manchester City net. The French champions lead against the Premier League champions, and this scoreline, 1-0, means that Manchester City drop down into the elimination places in the Champions League. PSG 1, Manchester City 0 just before half-time.
And what a goal it is, by the way. It's a brilliant goal. It all starts with that little fella in midfield, João Neves, who's been superb in this first half. They get after City, they win the ball back, but then they've got runners off it. He plays a lovely ball forward into Mendes, 1-2, gets in behind, squares it across the goal, and Hakimi, who is also, I mean, you're looking at both fullbacks are in the box. They have gone all out in this first half, PSG.
Oh, hang on.
So aggressive.
Hang on. Offside, VAR. VAR have intervened. I did wonder,
check.
Nuno Mendes, when he was played through, it was very tight, but they've quickly looked at, of course, they've got the semi-automated offside, haven't they? That was quick. They've worked it out. The goal is ruled out. It remains 0-0 in added time at the end of the first half, and Manchester City coming forward, but Matheus Nunes hits an awful pass beyond Haaland and Savinho and De Bruyne, and it's behind for a goal kick, and it is still 0-0.
I mean, it is
the kneecap.
It's half a kneecap, to be honest. I mean, that is so tight, so unfortunate for PSG.
So, well, it is 0-0. Half-time whistle has gone. PSG look, the body language tells you everything. They were up, now they're down, and it's still goalless.
Yeah, I'm unfortunate, to be honest. I think, in general play and how that last 20 minutes of the first half has gone, they probably deserve to be in the lead. One cleared off the line. That was a hair's breadth offside, and a really good, sharp, slick move they've been superb out of possession, and City have a game on their hands in the second half.
Yeah, the semi-automated offside, of which we will have a similar system working in the Premier League.
Can't wait.
At some point, semi-automated offside does its work quickly. The goal is ruled out, and at half-time here in Paris, it's PSG 0, Manchester City 0.
They have carried a threat out wide, haven't they, Matt?
Cool, haven't they? I think they've been brilliant in that position. The interchange of the front three. Doué looks like he's got fantastic feet. You know, we talked about Barcola before, how direct he is in good form, good goals. And the bit that's helped them, though, Chappers, they've had a midfield three that have fed them the ball, haven't they? And the fullbacks have got forward, and they've got after City in the middle of the pitch, forced mistakes, turned the ball, tackled. They've really surprised me how intense they've been and how good they've been out of possession.
But I suppose what happens with the false line is that when they're good out wide and then the ball's into the box, one, there aren't maybe as many numbers, but secondly, it's the opposite flank that is getting on the end of it.
It is, or a midfield player, or in this case it's Hakimi arriving from right back, as long as enough players get forward. But you know, that is high octane, a lot of running, a lot of pressure, and crossing it doesn't appear to be an option, like you said, because there's no one really in there to cause any damage. But players arriving from deep is the problem, and they've shown that.
They've only had, City only had 37% possession in that, which for us, it's actually gone to 42% actually now. So, which is unusual.
It is unusual, and it felt that way, and it didn't start that way. I think a lot of that sway of possession, you'd say it was nearer 50-50-ish, but the last 10-15 minutes, PSG have been probing, asking the question, raising the game. I think they're really being driven on by this home crowd, I have to say. It is an electric atmosphere inside this stadium, and they're bang up for this.
OK, Matt, John, thank you very much. Second half on the way. Burnley have got a 5th at Plymouth in the Championship, and at half-time it is Plymouth 0, Burnley 5. Celtic could have had 5 by half-time this evening in the Champions League, but A-League, they haven't got any.
No, I mean, a quite unbelievable first half where Celtic had the ball in the net 3 times, were awarded a penalty, have peppered the young boys' goal, but yet we are still waiting for the first goal in this game. Kyogo has the unwanted hat-trick of disallowed goals. The first, he made the run early, the second McGregor fouled in the build-up, and the third, Maeda was just offside before finding Kyogo with the cross. Arne Engels, who has a perfect record of penalties since arriving at Celtic, was given the opportunity from the spot. It was weak, tame, straight at Marvin Keller in the young boys' goal. They have been relentless, though, Celtic, playing with so much energy, but they have absolutely nothing to show for it at the moment. At the break, it's Celtic 0, young boys 0.
Any nerves there yet, or are they expecting it to come?
Well, I mean, Celtic have absolutely dominated the game, and I think most of the frustration has been towards the officials in this game, because all 3 goals, certainly the first goal looked offside, but the other 2 in the stadium they felt were goals. And then the penalty miss, I mean, Engels has scored, I think it's 6 from 6 since his arrival in the summer from the spot, so that one was expected to hit the back of the net. And slight nerves, because on the odd occasion when young boys do get forward, they do have pace and they do have danger in the forward areas. So I think the longer it goes on, the more nervy it may come.
All right, Ailey, thank you very much. Commentary of the second half there is on Sports Extra. Fairly comfortable first 45 for Arsenal. Conor McNamara?
Yeah, Arsenal 1, Dinamo Zagreb 0. Declan Rice with a very early goal. It was 106 seconds after the beginning of the match. It set the early agenda. Arsenal have been dominant throughout, and the biggest surprise is that they haven't added to their lead. Gabriel has come close with a couple of headers from corners. Raheem Sterling was presented with a brilliant opportunity when Kai Havertz cushioned a header down to him on the edge of the 6-yard box. Sterling couldn't react, though, to get a shot away. He tried and failed to control it on his upper thigh. Dinamo, they haven't had a single shot on target. They've been hanging on, but I guess with 1 goal between them, you never know. It's Arsenal 1, Dinamo Zagreb 0 at half-time.
And I suppose, John Bennis, as we look around the other scores in Europe, the one that stands out, as we still wait for them to blow the half-time whistle, is Bayern trailing against Feyenoord.
Yes, the match was delayed, or kickoff was delayed due to smoke from flares, so they're still playing into the final minute of injury time at the end of the first half. Feyenoord 1, Bayern Munich 0. Santiago Jimenez with the goal on the break. It was a long ball over the top. As we speak, Feyenoord attacking, trying to get a second as well. It's cleared by Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich 15th as it stands then on 12 points. So they'll get into the last 32, but at the moment they're ruining their chances.
They've just got a penalty,
of getting into the top 8. And yeah, Feyenoord have got a penalty, so a chance to go 2-0 up. Absolute nightmare for Bayern Munich, because they've had one decent chance, Harry Kane with a point-blank shot, but yeah, it's been all Feyenoord, really, in terms of chances, and that was a penalty that they won completely on the break. In terms of the other games, Mark, the big winners at the moment, the Milan clubs, it's AC Milan 1, Girona 0, Rafael Leao with the goal, so Milan up to 6th, Sparta Prague 0, Inter 1, so Inter up to 4th, Lautaro Martinez with his 11th of the season, and it's Real Madrid 2, Red Bull Salzburg 0, Rodrigo with both goals. For the second goal, an amazing backheel assist from Jude Bellingham. So Real Madrid booking their place, essentially, as it stands in the last 32. They're 17th on 12 points.
Yeah, as things stand in this mammoth league table, Arsenal are 3rd, Inter are 4th, Milan are 6th. Bayern, who are 1-0 down and could be about to go 2-0 down against Feyenoord, would drop down to 15th. Let you know shortly whether Feyenoord convert that penalty or not. Let's head to Home Park first of all, though, in the Championship, where the home side have had a miserable first half. John Akers.
They have. Burnley have been excellent, though. I'm not sure I've seen a more one-sided game of football in the Championship. Burnley have absolutely murdered Plymouth in that first half. It's Plymouth 0, Burnley 5 if you are just joining us, and well, they've been so good for it. Fleming's got a couple, Lawrence got a couple, Cullen right at the end of the half. Massive amounts of boos at half time, as you'd expect. Pretty embarrassing for Plymouth at the moment, who haven't really mustered an effort on goal in that first half. They hadn't scored more than 2 since August, Burnley. They are more than making up for it. They've been excellent in that first half. Goodness knows what Miran Muslic, the Plymouth manager, is going to say at half-time. It's Plymouth 0, Burnley 5.
Santiago Jimenez did score that penalty for Feyenoord, so that's his second of the evening, and they lead by 2-0. Naki Wells has just equalised for Bristol City at Hillsborough. Sheffield Wednesday 1, Bristol City 1 into the second half. They are there into the second half at Fratton Park, and Portsmouth have got an early second half goal through Connor Ogilvie, and they lead Stoke by 3-1, and they're underway in the second half at Ellen Road as well. Katie Smith.
Leeds 1, Norwich 0. Leeds leading after 31 seconds in the first half. Manor Solomon on loan from Spurs, his 5th of the season. It's been a bit of a switch of pace in this second half, a little more sedate. Norwich with quite a lot of possession, not really offering much on the attack though. No shots on target, didn't manage any in their last game either at the weekend. Leeds 1, Norwich 0.
In the Women's League Cup quarter-finals, Chelsea have thrashed Durham by 5-0. They're still playing in the Manchester derby. Sani Rajavajala.
A minute of injury time remaining. Manchester United 1, Manchester City 2. Lily Murphy, the 18-year-old, set up 1 and looks like she scored the winner. United 1, City 2.
So they're approaching the full-time whistle. They're midway through the second half between Tottenham and West Ham, and it's Tottenham 1, West Ham 2. And they've got maybe 15 minutes or so to go. Brighton and the holders are going through, aren't they, Paul Scott?
Yeah, they're 3-0 up here against Brighton, the two-time defending champions, reaching their last 4 surely now. 3 goals in 5 second half minutes have seen them pull clear over the home side. Frida Marnham got the first after a mistake at the back. Kate McCabe tapped home the second before a wonderful strike from Kyra Cooney-Cross made it Brighton 0, Arsenal 3.
Bristol City were level for just 2 minutes in the Championship because Deshaun Bernard has restored Sheffield Wednesday's lead. It's Sheffield Wednesday 2, Bristol City 1. 4 minutes to 9 o'clock. Jill Mackenzie has the 5 Live News.
The voice of the UK.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
Prince Harry's claimed a significant victory after News Group newspapers apologised for serious intrusion into his private life. The company, which is owned by Rupert Murdoch, will also pay substantial damages. It's the end of his 5-year legal battle with the owner of The Sun and the now defunct News of the World. Our media editor is Katie Razzle.
For News Group, they have avoided what could have been a really damaging case, that drip, drip, drip of allegations, suggestions of a cover-up, suggestions that phone hacking and other unlawful news-gathering techniques were widespread at the newspaper over many years. Now, it's important to say they would have fought that in court. They strongly deny that, but now we will not hear that evidence.
Tributes have been paid to the 12-year-old boy who was fatally stabbed in Birmingham yesterday. Leo Ross's head teacher said he was adored by his friends and described him as funny and sweet. A 14-year-old boy's been arrested on suspicion of murder. Alison Cope's son was stabbed to death. She now campaigns on knife crime and says children want knives for protection.
They're scared of other young people. They see the headlines of some of the horrific cases, and that's fueling a huge level of fear. And what we're not doing is counteracting that fear by reassurance, police presence, all the things that make young people feel safe. Those are becoming less and less.
President Trump's told Russia he'll impose tariff hikes and further sanctions unless Moscow agrees a deal to end the war in Ukraine. Writing on his Truth Social platform, Mr. Trump said he was not looking to hurt Russia, but that the ridiculous war would only get worse. Meanwhile, the UK Defence Secretary John Healey has warned President Putin that the Royal Navy will not shy away from robust action to protect the country after a Russian spy ship was seen in British waters. And a meeting of the Irish Parliament to install a new Prime Minister has been delayed until tomorrow because of noisy protests by opposition party members. They're unhappy about independent politicians who support the government being allowed to sit on opposition benches.
On Radio 4, the more you listen, the more you see.
Great minds don't think alike. They challenge each other to think differently. They disrupt, teach, collect, synthesise. From Malcolm X to Marie Curie, Socrates to Seisha Nagan, great minds are eccentrics, workaholics, revolutionaries. Join me, Naomi Alderman, for inspirational stories of great minds that thought nothing alike. Human Intelligence. Listen on Radio 4 and BBC Sounds.
This is 5 Live Sport.
The Champions League with Mark Chapman.
Listen on BBC Sounds.
The penultimate round of Champions League fixtures this evening as far as the British clubs are concerned. Arsenal lead Dinamo Zagreb by a goal to nil. Paris Saint-Germain had a late goal ruled out for offside in the Parc des Princes, so that's still goalless against Manchester City. Celtic have had 2 goals ruled out for offside, 1 for a foul and missed a penalty, and it is goalless between them and Young Boys. Elsewhere in Europe, Feyenoord 2, Bayern 0, Milan 1, Girona 0. Real Madrid 2, Salzburg 0, Sparta Prague 0, Inter 1. Earlier, Leipzig beat Sporting 2-1. Shakhtar beat Brest by 2 goals to 0. Nader Manua with us, part of the highlights show later. BBC One 10:40. What have you made of City?
I think defensively they look quite good in terms of how they're attacking and their general control of the game. It's probably not to the way that we've seen them domestically in terms of having tons of possession, but I think in the end, as far as this moment goes, PSG are the ones who need to be more on the front foot. They have their crowd there. They need to create some chances, and they'll be a bit frustrated, not least of all with that offside goal at the end, because it was very, very close.
So is that what City can do? Is just sit there? We mentioned the possession earlier, didn't we? And just 42%. So what? Sit in and hit on the break?
Not necessarily as simple as that, because at some point you need to show the character to get on the ball, because the longer you sort of like just sit back there and you drop further and further, the closer you get to your goal and the more pressure you're under. But I think at times they've managed to win the ball back and hit PSG in transition, but it's not looked as clean as, say, we've seen in times gone by. But as far as the game goes, 0 at half-time, I think they'll take that.
They are vulnerable to the crossfield ball, though, aren't they, at the moment?
Yeah, they are. And I think that's where most of the threat is coming from Paris Saint-Germain. Like, their 2 wingers are flying machines and they want to take people on. So whenever there is a chance and the ball's on, say, City's left-hand side, before you know it, there's a big diagonal play, then there's an isolation 1v1. And I think from City's perspective, there are a lot of those balls being played towards the side of Matheus Nunes, who is playing at right-back, but isn't a right-back. But he's done an admirable job so far. But yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting thing to see if PSG play the same way.
And just an example of how quickly these things can change. Pre-match, I was talking to John Bennett about the run that Bayern were on in the Champions League, and they'd be looking to finish in the top 8. They've had a miserable first half.
Yeah, to be 2-0 down anywhere when you are Bayern Munich, when you are the team that will essentially be hosting the final come the summer as well, I think that's real pressure, and that's a big shock for them. I think they need a massive reaction, because nothing is guaranteed in this competition, and they've had some tough defeats already, but they have to find a way back into this game.
And if you were Celtic and that first half had gone the way it had, if you were in that dressing room, would you think it's not going to be our night?
No, not really. I don't think anyone.
Do you think Chris would think it's not going to be our night?
I think, given how anxious he sounded on the radio earlier, hopefully the players don't have any of that within them, because they're still the dominant side, and Young Boys are down at the bottom of the group for a reason. So with Celtic, a big 45 minutes could be very exciting for them.
The highlights 10:40 tonight on BBC One. See all the goals from last night as well. Just one other quick sports story for you. England's men began their white ball era under Brendan McCullum with a heavy defeat to India in the first of 5 T20s. India reaching their target with, I think it was 6 or 7 overs to spare in the end in Kolkata. Let's go back to the Parc des Princes then. Goalless at half-time. Here's Matt Upson and John Murray.
Yes, I don't know whether you saw the pictures, Mark, that we could see via our screen here, but we had pictures from the tunnel with Hakimi and the PSG players having a bit of a laugh with the referee Simon Marciniak, and we saw, didn't we, Matt, Hakimi with his sort of finger and thumb so close together, as if saying to him it was so close, the offside.
It was half a kneecap offside, and good they can have a smile and laugh about it, but they should be smiling, the PSG players, because they're giving a great account of themselves in that first half, and I think they're really looking forward to this second half.
Interesting move by Luis Enrique, who is now bringing back Ousmane Dembele, the French World Cup winner, who's missed the last couple of games through illness. So Lee Kang-in is off, and Dembele is on to play through the middle.
Big move. He's their talisman, he's their goal scorer. He will play more like a proper number 9, and it really is going to be a big challenge for City in this second half, who are making their own changes as well.
Yes, Jack Grealish coming on, and Rico Lewis as well, a double change for Manchester City. So who's off?
Looks like
is Ruben Dias, who, remember, is on the yellow card.
Is Akanji gone off?
No.
Diaz, Diaz.
Yeah,
so
Diaz.
Gvardiol's gone into the left side centre-back position
and
alongside Akanji.
And
with
Savinho?
Yes, with Rico Lewis at left-back and Savinho off.
Yeah.
With Grealish now on the left-hand side. So it's Rico Lewis and Grealish on City's left.
So you have to take from that Pep Guardiola was concerned about that yellow card for Diaz. He does not want to lose a player here, unless there's another injury, of course, and Diaz only returned on Sunday from 6 matches out.
Yeah, you can tell from Diaz that he's a player coming back, getting up to speed, and this is not the game to try and get up to speed with. This is fast as lightning, this game, on a super slick surface. That any player coming back after 5, 6, 7 game layoff, you're going to find it difficult to maintain that kind of level.
And Jack Grealish has come on the left-hand side, so they're underway here in the atmospheric, noisy Parc des Princes, where it is Paris Saint-Germain 0, Manchester City 0. This is 5 Live from the BBC. Listen as well on BBC Sounds, and Radio Manchester listeners are with us as well. And PSG with that one change, so Dembele is now through the middle. That Donnarumma in goal, Hakimi, Marquinhos, Pacho and Nuno Mendes. Then in midfield, Vitinha with Fabian Ruiz and João Neves, the impressive young Portuguese. And then the front line of Doué currently on the right, Barcola on the left, and Dembele, the substitute, through the middle. Dembele, who scored 6 goals in his last 4 appearances before his illness. And it is PSG in the navy blue shirts, shorts and socks, attacking the goal to our right now, so right down below us we're watching the teenager Doué playing it back to Fabian Ruiz, curls the pass out to Barcola on the left hand side. Barcola is up against Mateus Nunes, into the penalty area with it now, drags it back with his right foot, then there's a drop of the shoulder, then he tries to win the corner off Mateus Nunes, he stands up strong, he gets a touch, and Ederson's able to come along the goal line and whack it clear with his right foot.
That's what we were talking a lot before the game, weren't we, about the money that PSG have spent and the young players that they've brought in, and kind of umming and ahhing. But I will say in this game you can see where the money's gone in the 3 young players in particular. The 2 wingers, Barcola and Doué, have looked fantastic, and also João Neves in midfield. And what's he, 70 million euros, John, or
near
something
enough.
Near that. I mean, that's a huge price tag for a young player, but he was outstanding in the first half, and you can kind of see where that money has gone. Although they are young players, they do certainly look very promising.
Yes, João Neves, the number 87, who did have a chance in the first half, but the big chance that they had, aside from the goal that was disallowed, the shot from Fabian Ruiz that was cleared off the line. I saw that again in the second half, and Gvardiol's knee, that's so important. It was an amazing block on the line. See it on Match of the Day tonight as PSG come forward. Doué, and then that's a strong challenge in centre field for Manchester City from Mateus Nunes. Real Madrid now 3-0 up on Salzburg, and Kylian Mbappe has scored, the man who was here for such a long time. And then right down below us Dembele can't keep the ball in, and it's a throw into Manchester City. So PSG 0, Manchester City 0. Arsenal are still winning 1-0 against Dinamo Zagreb. It is still Celtic 0, Young Boys 0 after a really dramatic first half in Glasgow. And in the Championship, Leeds heading back to the top of the table. Katie Smith.
They have doubled their lead at Ellen Road. It is Leeds 2, Norwich 0. Norwich failing to clear their area. The ball played in from the left, curled in, and Dan James at the back post with his left foot. Leeds 2, Norwich 0.
Leeds 2, Norwich 0. Portsmouth 3, Stoke 1, Sheffield Wednesday 1, Bristol City 1, and Plymouth 0, Burnley 5 are the latest scores. 0-0 here. Manchester City break just where we're listening to Katie, but PSG have got it away. Here's Akanji now. Akanji at the back into the penalty area, beats the defender, pulls it back. Bernardo Silva with a shot. Donnarumma with a save. Grealish finishes it on the follow-up. It's Jack Grealish. He scored only one goal in 13 months for Manchester City. That is his first goal from open play since 2023. And he's given Manchester City the lead here in this crucial Champions League match in Paris. 1-0.
Oh, big moment for Manchester City. And it's Akanji that makes it happen. I mean, I think everyone was shocked in the stadium to see what he did. He just took on Mendes one-on-one. He just knocked it past him. I think he took him by surprise that he was so aggressive with wanting to get to the byline, a real kind of like wingers play. He gets there, he gets round the side of Mendes, he has the strength to shrug him off, puts the cross in the box. There's a real ricochet between Donnarumma, defenders, there's bodies everywhere. The ball pops back out onto the far side, level with the far post, and Jack Grealish is just coming onto it. Plenty of time in space, focusing on the contact, and just strokes it home into the back of the net. But Akanji did brilliantly to make that happen.
That was truly bold from Akanji. I'm slightly suspicious because we've not restarted playing. VAR are having a look. The referee blows his whistle, the goal stands. Jack Grealish on the score sheet here at the Parc des Princes. PSG 0, Manchester City 1, and that jumps Manchester City up to 18th in the table, and it leaves PSG languishing in the elimination places. And with this scoreline, PSG will have to go and win in Stuttgart and hope it's enough.
Well, it's really going to have to test the mentality. This is a tough moment for this relatively young team. They've been superb in the game, but they've got a big challenge on their hands now. How are they going to react?
Long way to go yet, almost the whole of the second half. That goal being scored in the 50th minute. But what a goal it was. Grealish, beautiful for him, wasn't it? It just sat up 8 yards out, and he just put his foot through it and drove it into the net.
It's quite a muted celebration as well. He kind of ran off and slid into his teammates on the touchline, but was very kind of deadpan and not really making too much of it.
Manchester City supporters at directly the opposite end of the Parc des Princes, over on the far side. I'm looking at them as the rain continues to teem down through the open roof here, but 1-0. And now the ball's won back centrally by Kovacic for Kevin De Bruyne, who does ever so well, draws the PSG players and then finds Phil Foden, who's able to take it down the right. And Foden, under pressure, might have been fouled there by Barcola, but nevertheless was able to pass the ball back to the halfway line to City. And Gvardiol, who made that crucial block in the first half on the line. It's his birthday tomorrow as well, 23 years old. Gvardiol plays it back to Ederson. And now Mateus Nunes is able to run free with the ball. Mateus Nunes still going, slips it to Grealish, left side of the box. Grealish now, PSG players coming back, double deflection, and Haaland is there. It falls to the feet of Erling Haaland in the 6-yard box, and there was going to be only one outcome, and that is now a scoreline of Paris Saint-Germain 0, Manchester City 2, and Erling Haaland, with his 23rd goal of the season, has doubled the City lead.
Well, it's the right side of the Manchester City defence again. I mean, they really have made it happen for City in this second half. It's Mateus Nunes. He picks up the ball, in and around the halfway line, and he just uses his pace and his ability to run with the ball as an attacking player, and he glides into space. He takes 2 or 3 PSG players on, he draws everyone towards him, he offloads it really cleverly out to Grealish, who then puts the ball across. It takes a wicked deflection actually off Vitinha, I think it is, who's trying to get back into space, and it just falls beautifully right in front of Erling Haaland, who strokes it home with ease with his left foot, and it's a great counter-attack goal really for Manchester City.
Paris Saint-Germain 0, Manchester City 2, and that is some scoreline for City, who at times during the course of this match have been under severe pressure. The clearance off the line from Guardiola, the goal that was so close, ruled out for offside just before half-time. But that, again, I'll use the word bold for Manchester City. Akanji bold for the first goal, Mateus Nunes bold for the second.
Well, it was brilliant, wasn't it? And what I love about both those instances is it's just a mentality of coming out in this second half and taking responsibility as an individual, saying, I'm going to make something happen. And both those players did that in those moments, and City have had the reward.
So it's 2-0, and Paris Saint-Germain are now facing another home defeat. Their only home defeat this season was in the Champions League against Atletico Madrid, when they had many chances in that match and weren't able to convert them. And now here they are. They've not been able to get the ball legally in the Manchester City net, and 2 goals in I think 3 minutes have taken Manchester City up to what would be 18th place in the table and well clear of the elimination zone. But there's still plenty of time as Barcola breaks the ball away down the left-hand side, pulls it across, Dembele on his left foot, tucks it away, and Paris Saint-Germain are on the score sheet now, and their substitute has grabbed a goal back. PSG 1, Manchester City 2.
Well, you just knew sooner or later Barcola was going to do something like this, either him or Doué, and it's just poor defending from City. I think it is Nunes who just dives in on the touchline. He doesn't need to try and nick the ball. He gets played out to Barcola, he's waiting with his heels on the line, and Nunes gets sucked in to try and win it. He doesn't win it, he slips past him, and then he's got an ocean of space to drive in. Defenders coming across, he gets his head up beautifully, spots Dembele in the middle, slips it to him, and it's a simple finish for the substitute just to put PSG on the score sheet and now really lift the crowd. It had gone terribly flat in this stadium, John, hadn't it, at 2-0. It's really got people off their seat again.
Yep, but it's alive again as Grealish is bundled over. He's barged over, actually. Hakimi came in at pace and straight into the middle of his back. Challenge as well, down went Grealish, free kick forward of the centre circle. So Paris Saint-Germain 1, Manchester City 2. It's still Celtic 0, Young Boys 0. It remains Arsenal 1, Dinamo Zagreb 0, and Real Madrid now 4-0 up on Salzburg. Vinicius has scored the 4th goal.
I think what's interesting about that goal City have conceded is players like Kyle Walker on the pitch don't make those mistakes. And I know Nunes is playing out of position and he's had some positive impacts on this game, but City are just lacking that kind of know-how, that nous in that area of the pitch just to make good game management decisions.
Yes, it looks like Kyle Walker, his move is going to be confirmed, his loan move to Milan, although Pep Guardiola wasn't giving any further information on that last night, as Haaland wins the ball back in the PSG defensive third. De Bruyne plays it through for the big Norwegian international. It's rattling around on the edge of the box. De Bruyne into the challenge, and then Vitinha, excellent. Vitinha brings it away. Superb play from him, from the Portuguese midfielder. And now it's Doué on the right-hand side. Doué, the young French international, not yet a full international, but I'm sure he will be one day, as João Neves plays it to Barcola on his right foot. Barcola with the shot, but he's blazed it actually well wide, well high across the face of goal and behind.
It opened up, didn't it? It surprised me actually how much space he did have. It was Bernardo Silva who came in a little bit late, but when he comes on inside on his right foot, Barcola, you don't want to give him too much space.
In the Women's League Cup quarter-finals, Brighton-Arsenal is over. Paul Scott.
Brighton 0, Arsenal 4, the 2-time defending champions through to the semi-finals. It's 10 wins in a row under René Slagers. All the goals in this one coming in the second half. Marnham, McCabe, Cooney, Cross and Caldente with them. Arsenal to host Manchester City in the semi-finals.
Yes, Manchester City winning 2-1 against Manchester United. It's still Tottenham 1, West Ham 2. They're still playing there. PSG 1, Manchester City 2. We had 3 goals in the space of, I think, 6 minutes. City 2-0 up, but then that goal back from Dembele, and now here's Barcola again. They've got new energy, PSG, with that Dembele goal, as João Neves takes it towards the left-hand side and then turns and plays it back to Pacho near the halfway line. Let's get the latest from Celtic Park. What's happening now, Ailey Barber?
Still goalless. Celtic have had a few chances in this second half. Trusty from a corner, his header just over, and Callum McGregor denied from distance by a diving save from Keller. But it has opened up a little. Young Boys getting a little bit more possession into the attacking areas. We still wait the opening goal. It is still Celtic 0, Young Boys 0.
And Celtic, Manchester City have now gone above them, so Celtic are 23rd in the table. And again, just to restate it, you have to finish in the top 24 in the table to get through to the knockout stages. Dembele's won a corner for PSG, which is taken short. It's driven across and bounces across the penalty area straight to Kevin De Bruyne, who's able to run it away, but he runs into trouble and he's been dispossessed by Pacho.
I'll tell you what, it's incredible how quickly this game has swung from being completely silent and City looking very much in control to now all of a sudden they look really under pressure, and they've got the bit between the teeth, PSG. They're after it.
And João Neves is now in possession. He gives a little ball square to Fabian Ruiz. And now Doué. Right foot shot hits the bar! And then the shot is in! Barcola on the follow-up. Right foot. It bounced against the post and in. And they've come from 2-0 down. Manchester City scored 2 quickly. And we're in control. Now PSG have hit back with 2 quick goals of their own, and it's all square.
Wow. You could just feel it. You could sense it was going to happen. I felt City were under so much pressure. They weren't getting hold of the ball. They were stretched. PSG really at it. The 2 wide players have just been outstanding this evening. This time it's Doué coming inside. They just switch sides, so he's coming in onto his right foot, bends it to the top corner, off the crossbar, bizarrely straight to the feet of Barcola. And I think it's Ederson, he's kind of gone to ground, he's dived for the ball, so he can't get up on his feet. It's a real kind of bobbled finish from Barcola. It bounces agonisingly, really slowly into the far post and into the back of the net. And what a response from PSG, but you could really sense that frailty of Manchester City once they'd gone 2-0 up, and that first goal went in from Dembele. They've just been in big trouble ever since.
It's a real thriller.
Yep.
Paris Saint-Germain 2, Manchester City 2, that's what it is. And in the table, that means Manchester City slither back down to 24th, so they're just above the elimination line. And it's as we were at the start of the match, Manchester City 24th and PSG 25th.
It's the speed of how quickly they just lost that control, John, to be honest. I mean, that is the concerning thing, how quickly that can just change.
And as the rain continues to pour down, PSG pour forward again. Barcola teasing Mateus Nunes one way and the other, then back to the edge of the box. Vitinha, he's challenged, and then Doué's over there, but the cross from Barcola over the top of Dembele, bounces out. They want João Neves to shoot, which he does, but it dips over the top of the crossbar. Possibly, I think Ederson did get a fingertip to it.
I mean, that looked like it could have been going in for one moment. I think it is just off the defending player, and it really does loop up. Ederson jumps up because he knows that ball has got so much dip on it. He's got to be careful, it just doesn't drop underneath the crossbar, but they are turning up the pressure here, PSG. They're all over Manchester City at the moment.
And Luis Enrique has made a couple of changes as well. Ramos and Zaire Emery are on as PSG take the corner, and it's into Barcola at the far post, who went for the spectacular overhead kick, but got underneath it and volleyed it high and behind towards the PSG fans behind the goal. It remains 2-2.
And interesting, he's taken Doué off.
Doué's gone.
Yeah.
Gonçalo Ramos is on, another Portuguese international, another expensive signing, another young man, 23. He's best part of €80 million.
Well, if you're young and you're expensive, who do you play for? PSG.
Absolutely.
And I tell you what, they've given a right good account of themselves here this evening. The young players in particular, I've mentioned it a few times, but they're looking a real talent and a really good investment if they keep developing like this.
Yeah, and he's on the number 9 through the middle, so that is really proactive, isn't it, by Luis Enrique, who's looking thoroughly miserable, standing there in his anorak with his hood up and the rain glistening off the top of it with his hands in his pockets as Manchester City come forward with De Bruyne. Haaland is in there up against Pacho, and the referee says there was a foul by Erling Haaland on Pacho, and it's a goal kick, and it remains here. Paris Saint-Germain 2, Manchester City 2. Now Arsenal have been leading for a long time, Conor McNamara, with you.
And they've just scored a second goal. Boy, has this been coming. Finally a delivery onto the head of Kai Havertz, who nods it home from close range. This has been an utterly dominant Arsenal performance, but for the first time tonight they've got a cushion on the scoreboard. Martinelli's delivery here, laying it on a plate for Kai Havertz. Dinamo have been hanging on for such a long time. We've got 25 minutes to play. Arsenal 2, Dinamo Zagreb 0. They're going up to 3rd in the Champions League table tonight, Arsenal.
Paris Saint-Germain coming forward. Dembele with a chance just inside the penalty area on his left foot, but he lifts it high and it lands almost in the fans, actually, right up against the hoardings, which are somewhere behind the goal. 2-2.
City is struggling big time. They cannot get a hold of this game at the moment. The distances defensively are miles off. The back four aren't getting close to anyone. The moment PSG have the ball in the middle of the midfield, it's going wide, they're slipping people in behind, the crosses are coming in, there's movement in the box, nobody's tying in. I'm really fearing for Manchester City at the moment. They've got a long way to go in this game and they're bang under pressure.
Yeah, it's a real test this, as they come forward again, and it's Nuno Mendes who's caused all manner of problems when he surges forward from the full-back position and he forces the corner.
Well, the energy that they've had, both full-backs, Hakimi and Mendes, are just getting forward into the box at any opportunity, and there's just a sea of PSG shirts arriving in that 18-yard box.
They've taken the corner back towards Nuno Mendes, left-footed ball in, bounces at the back post, shot from Barcola across the penalty area, hits a City body and bounces back and wide of the post and behind for another corner. Panic stations.
Yeah, I think it's Haaland in there. He wins the initial flick on out of play and it just strikes the upper part of his arm. I mean, it's kind of indicating the ball's hit him in the face, but it looked like it hit him on like the shoulder, to be honest. Whether or not he caught a little arm in the nose or something on the initial flicked header.
Yeah, well, he's standing at the near post with Gvardiol. He's pulled up his shirt there to mop his face.
Yeah, I think it was the initial flick. He won the first header. I mean, he does play a big role for Manchester City in those defensive set plays. He's a big lad and has that free roll to just be in the middle of the box and go and attack the ball.
Dembele with the latest corner for PSG to the near post. It's flicked on, but then blocked by Kevin De Bruyne, who was behind Vitinha when he was flicking it on. And then Nuno Mendes heads it forward, comes back for Hakimi. Hakimi places a pass that bounces nicely for Barcola, who actually gets it slightly held up behind his body, and then his ball into the penalty area is worked across, and then the left foot of Matheus Nunes sees it behind for a corner. Manchester City are under severe pressure from the French champions here.
Yeah, Zaire Emery that time making the run from deeper. They've done that so well. You know, even when Barcola isn't that far forward, he's got a midfield player making a run so he can slip a pass to him.
Corner taken back to Nuno Mendes again, then Hakimi, then a shot from Vitinha from well over 30 yards. That might have been a foul. City are looking to break away. Foden gets it down, still inside their own half. De Bruyne, now Kovacic does well, and then De Bruyne with a first-time pass to Bernardo Silva, and Bernardo Silva looks for Rico Lewis, who came on at half-time like Jack Grealish. Grealish and Haaland scored for Manchester City, but Dembele and Barcola then scored for PSG. We had 4 goals in 11 minutes, I think. 2 for City, then 2 for PSG. It's been a dramatic night to a brilliant backdrop, and the rain pouring down the whole time. Here's De Bruyne now, inside his own half, is able to keep possession of the ball, give it back to Matheus Nunes, who's away from Barcola, and then Matheus Nunes will just strike a right-footed ball all the way across the pitch to Jack Grealish, who's got Bernardo Silva behind him. Grealish's ball to Haaland in the box. Haaland is forced wide, and then just touches it to Bernardo Silva. Rico Lewis. The noise from the home supporters while Manchester City have possession here is piercing. Akanji, halfway inside PSG territory. Back to Mateus Nunes, and City are going to go back, I think, all the way to the halfway line, and Pep Guardiola is going to make another couple of changes as the ball eventually is deflected out of play on the far side. James McAtee and Ilkay Gundogan are coming on. Kevin De Bruyne, the first one to come off. So while they make the changes, let's see what the latest is with Ailey Barber at Celtic Park.
Celtic living a little bit more dangerously, and Kasper Schmeichel has had to pull off an incredible double save to deny Gamvula twice. It was brilliant from the Celtic goalkeeper. The tempo has dropped a little. I'm a little bit concerned about Celtic's schedule perhaps catching up with them here, because they need to win to try and ensure their passage through to the knockout stages. But it is still Celtic 0, Young Boys 0.
And it remains Arsenal 2, Dinamo Zagreb 0. So that's going to take Arsenal up to third place in the table. And we've got the games to play next Wednesday, and 5 Live will have full coverage of that next Wednesday night when all 18 matches are played at the same time to sort out this Champions League group for the final time. But were it to stay like that, then Liverpool and Arsenal would be on separate sides of the draw in the knockout stages. Here's Dembele now for a nutmeg on Bernardo Silva, and he shoots against the crossbar. Goodness me, he left Bernardo Silva on the ground with a nutmeg, and then from the angle he went for the rising shot. It smacked the bar and bounced away to safety.
That was ridiculous, I have to say. The nutmeg, Bernardo Silva, as he nutmegs him, Bernardo Silva turns round and he just blows his lip mouth, he just goes as if to say, wow, I've just been completely done there. But the shot after, the angle that he has, he knows he's got to hit it with power, and he smashes it with his right foot. Dembele rattles off the crossbar and bounces down. What a move from him.
It remains Paris Saint-Germain 2, Manchester City 2. Match of the day, Champions League match of the day is on tonight. Gary Cahill's going to join us again for the last half hour of 5 Live Sport. We'll round everything up for you. There'll be a Champions League debrief which you'll find on the Football Daily feed of the 5 Live Football Daily podcast on BBC Sounds, and all of the highlights you'll be able to see from 10 o'clock tonight on the iPlayer and via the BBC Sport website and app. As Bernardo Silva now with a long pass, but that's gone straight out of play for a throw.
They're still after the ball, PSG, with 71 minutes. They have not let up at all in this game so far. I've been so impressed with that fitness levels, intensity levels, and it's horrible as a player when you're in Man City's position.
As Hakimi gets the better of Rico Lewis. Lewis dives in, Hakimi plays it back. City just got a leg in. Grealish now, and then in goes João Neves, comes out with the ball, shoots wide of the top corner. João Neves, and he puts his hands over his face and looks to the rainy skies above the Parc des Princes.
Every tackle he goes in for, he comes out with the ball. Now that's credit to him, but it's also a look at Manchester City as well to say those incidents, you've got to win more of them. I mean, the ball is not far over the crossbar, he pings it with his left foot, it's always rising. It's a good yard or so over the bar, but his desire to want to win that ball in the middle of that part is greater than anyone else's at the moment, and it's really determining big moments in this game.
Bristol City have got a second equaliser against Sheffield Wednesday. It's 2-2. McCrory with the second goal for Bristol City. Not long left there. Still Portsmouth 3, Stoke 1. Leeds on the way back to the top of the table, winning 2-0 against Norwich, and Burnley still 5-0 up as they were at half-time at bottom of the table, Plymouth. Well, Matthew Upson,
take a breather.
We have less than 20 minutes to go, but that's still a long time to play in this game.
If there was something worthy of winning this game, it would have been that goal from Dembele, though, wouldn't it? What a piece of skill that was.
That would have been one of the goals of the season.
Yeah.
And here's Dembele again. Dembele already scored one goal in this match. Lays it back to the edge of the area, but a heavy touch there as from João Neves has given it back for Manchester City, who've been right up against it since they took the 2-goal lead, and the place was quietened.
I mean,
Rico Lewis is fouled by João Neves. Even the well-heeled Parisians down in front of us were were up on their feet. They dropped their parapluies and they were on their feet.
I can't believe how they've performed in this game. I mean, Luis Enrique has got a tune out of his team. I'm not sure if the home fans can quite believe that the intensity and the physicality they've had has really surprised me.
Last night it was all he's not this,
it was,
he's not that,
yeah.
He's not the other.
They've given them a real show today, regardless of what this result ends up. They've really had a go. You've got to give them credit.
But next week they've got to go to Stuttgart, and even with the effort that they've put in, PSG are still in the elimination places, and Manchester City have still got their heads above the line in 24th. But they'll have to finish the job next week against Club Bruges, and yes, it's at home, but are we having another think about whether Manchester City are back to their best or what?
Well, I think there's frailties there, and I think that's why PSG have been so bold with their strategy in this game, and Luis Enrique's got the confidence to go, listen, let's get after, let's really test their mettle. We know there's a bit of a resurgence going on, but they're still not that Manchester City that are capable of anything. They're not that, and I think everyone can see that, but there's certain frailties, especially, you go 2 up at Brentford and then concede those 2 sloppy goals. Similar thing happens this evening. It's a little bit of a trait.
Feyenoord?
Yeah, Feyenoord, and I think it's something that's just crept in, and it's hard to eradicate it.
When they were 3-0 up and ended up drawing 3-3 against the Dutch side, as PSG win possession back again. We have 15 minutes to play now here in the Parc des Princes, the atmospheric Parc des Princes, down here in the southwest of the capital, not far away from Roland Garros. There's more coverage from the Australian Open during the night, and also on Sports Extra first thing in the morning, live from Canberra, the second women's T20. Here's Bernardo Silva. Bernardo Silva's ball in field actually bounces off Vitinha all the way back to Donnarumma, who since he let the second goal in, Donnarumma's been almost a spectator.
Yeah, no, has done nothing. I mean, they've had the 2 goals in this half, City, but other than that, nothing at all. Not had a lot of the ball.
Feels that there's a lot happened in this game, hasn't there?
Yeah.
2-2 the score. Arsenal still 2-0 up on Dinamo Zagreb, and it's still Celtic 0, Young Boys 0 somehow, after everything that's happened in that match. And Real Madrid have just gone 5-0 up against Salzburg. The holders are going to be safely through into the knockout stage of the competition, although as it is, they will have to play those extra matches, that playoff round in February, which, if you gave that to Manchester City now, they'd absolutely take it in this position, because PSG are into the last 15 minutes now, and Manchester City are under the pump. Ederson, long and left-footed over the top of Grealish, who just gets his head to it, but it flies away out of play for a throw-in to PSG. Haaland's goal, by the way, was his 47th in the Champions League. That is 47 in 46 Champions League appearances.
Crazy, absolutely crazy. But I mean, 63% possession at the moment PSG is sitting on. I mean, that is, it's not often you see Manchester City with that little of the ball, is there? And it's been real dominance at times from the home team.
John Stones is going to be sent on by Pep Guardiola very shortly, as the ball bounces up into the arm of Rico Lewis. He's a little unfortunate there, right down below us here. Free kick to PSG on the right hand side, and the substitution's going to be made now. John Stones is coming on. He's had little or no football. He's had 1 appearance since November with this ongoing foot problem that he's had. So John Stones coming on for just his 13th appearance in all competitions this season.
At least it's a nice dull game to come on in. Not had much match time lately.
There you go into the bare pit.
It really is
of the Parc des Princes.
It really is. I mean, will he sit in midfield? Will he drop into the back line? We'll have to wait and see. They're defending set play along that 18-yard line at the moment.
Captain's armband's been handed on to Bernardo Silva. Vitinha takes this in right to the back post. It's headed in. João Neves arriving. They've come from 2-0 down to lead 3-2, and Manchester City's players They've been absolutely bombarded by Paris Saint-Germain in the second half, and now they are behind, and now Manchester City are dropping down into the elimination places. Paris Saint-Germain 3, Manchester City 2, and just over 10 minutes to play.
Well, it's just hard to believe. It's hard to believe how they switch off so badly. I know they make the substitution, but there's too many players along the line so far advanced in the near post. There is no one at the back post, and it's that little fella, if anyone deserves to score the winning goal this evening, it's this man, João Neves. He has been absolutely superb in the heart of the PSG midfield. He's been everywhere, winning possession, driving forwards, getting in the box, tackling, the desire that he's shown, desire to get on the end of that cross. And City will look at that set play and just look at each other and think, well, how are we lined up so far forwards? We've got no players weighted to the far post and in that end of the line, and it's just a simple ball into the back post, no one there, a diving header into the near post, and Ederson has very little chance at that kind of range. Poor goal to concede from City.
Manchester City, who thought they'd found form, 6 goals at Portman Road on Sunday, it was much, much better, and here, less than 10 minutes into the second half, leading by 2-0, they looked as though they were on their way to what would be a famous victory, actually, given the way that the match has gone. But suddenly they've been plunged right back into crisis.
It's ironic you bring on your centre-half when there's a set play. You normally think you're doing that to shore it up, and City just, whether or not it's the substitution or the distraction, you've got that 30-second, minute and a half break when the substitution's happening. That's when you've got to really tune in and think, right, where's the opposition, who's at the back post, who's got this zone. Instead it just went a little bit loose, and that delivery came in, they just weren't prepared for it.
Another change, Bradley Barcola, who scored the second goal for PSG. He's going to be replaced by Lucas Hernandez. So now with PSG in front in the match, Luis Enrique, it's been a real tactical triumph actually for him tonight. He's bringing on the French international defender Lucas Hernandez, and he has cheered to the concrete rafters here. 3-2 Paris Saint-Germain lead against Manchester City, and Manchester City heading into the elimination places. They will drop down to 25th with this scoreline, and Paris Saint-Germain will be up into the playoff positions. So we still have less than 10 minutes to play. Arsenal leading 2-0 against Dinamo Zagreb. As for Celtic young boys, Ailey Barber,
still goalless. Celtic putting the pressure on the crowd, trying to lift them. We're into the final 8 minutes here. Celtic need the victory that would ensure their progression into the playoff matches. Can they get a goal in these final 8 minutes? It's still Celtic 0, Young Boys 0.
Into the Championship, Katie Smith at Elland Road.
Leeds 2, Norwich 0. So Leeds go back top, point clear of Sheffield United. A solid showing today to the lead after 31 seconds. That was thanks to Solomon getting on the end of a Dan James cross. They switch roles in the second half. James finishing well at the back post. So that is 11 unbeaten in all competitions for Norwich. A second game in a row with 0 shots on target. Leeds 2, Norwich 0.
Portsmouth have won again. They've beaten Stoke by 3-1. So that's Mark Robins' first defeat as the Stoke City manager. 2 wins in a row for Portsmouth. PSG trying to build something on the right-hand side. Bernardo Silva is beaten in the challenge, and now here's Hakimi on the right, receives it from Dembele. Hakimi, it's gone all the way across to the far side. A heavy touch by Nuno Mendes, a flick. Dembele is offside. He puts the ball in the net, but I think he was offside. We had quite a good view from here.
Yeah, I think it's the right call, but I mean, they are absolutely running right here. PSG, Manchester City are a yard off the pace in terms of dealing with the way Dembele nicks that ball there from Bernardo Silva. He was so sharp in to steal it. Then the cross comes in, distances again, not quite right, no one tight enough. It's just too easy for PSG. They're creating chance after chance. That's 21 attempts on goal they've had in this game. It's too many. You can't get away with that at this level.
And it feels like it as well.
It really does.
Paris Saint-Germain 3, Manchester City 2. 5 Live from the BBC. also on Radio Manchester. And PSG storm forward again with Dembele into the box on the right. Low shot! Ederson diving down to his left. He tried to drag it back into the bottom corner, and the Manchester City goalkeeper though was sharp, alive to it, and got his fingertips to it to push it round the foot of the post.
Well, how lively has he been since he's come on at half-time, Dembele? I know he's not been well, but if this is him not well with a bit of flu, John, I don't want to see him at full strength. He's confident, he's taking players on, but the space is there, and they're having a field day at the moment.
Might be footballer flu, Matt. They never have a cold.
Is that different then?
They never have a cold. Dembele into the near post, and a flick takes it straight behind for what is given as a corner. Came off Rico Lewis. The flick from João Neves, the man who might well have scored the winning goal. The flick off Rico Lewis and behind for another PSG corner, which they take now. We're going to go back to Arsenal in a moment. The PSG again pressing, looking for a fourth goal that would absolutely finish Manchester City off. Manchester City, who would remain in the elimination places with this scoreline. Back to Celtic, Ailey Barber.
Where Celtic have found their breakthrough. It was a ball through to Adam Ida. He scampered clear of the back line. His shot was saved, but the ball rebounded off Young Boys captain Loris Benito and into the empty net. And Celtic Park erupted. It is Celtic 1, Young Boys 0.
As Manchester City are on the back foot here, but playing the ball back to Ederson. So Celtic finally find the goal. That's on Sports Extra, by the way, if you want to hear it. To Summercross with BBC Radio Scotland. 3-2 PSG lead. Manchester City haven't given this up, of course. Bernardo Silva's able to take it forward. He is being fouled by João Neves, even though 47,000 Parisians disagree. It's a free kick to Manchester City.
Yeah, he's not giving that up, João Neves. He's not giving anything up all night. He has been outstanding. He's all over Bernardo Silva. Thinks he's got his body in the way, but he's got this low centre of gravity, the little PSG midfielder. But when he gets around the feet of players, he gives them no respite at all, and he constantly gets closer and closer. He's horrible to play against.
Foden to take the free kick for Manchester City. Haaland with a header, bounces down in the box, rattling round, and it rattles out to PSG. However, shot on the turn is over the top from Ilkay Gundogan. Runs his fingers through his hair, wide of the top corner by 2 or 3 feet.
Tight angle. I think it's Pacho coming out to block the line. He does well, the big centre-back. He doesn't have much time on the ball. He's right on the edge of the box. He gets it onto his right foot, Gundogan, but the centre-half, Pacho, comes out and he blocks the line to the goal, so he can only really bend it right round him. There's just not enough space to hit the target.
Tomorrow night, join us on 5 Live for Manchester United Rangers. We'll have all of the matches in the Europa League covered, but Ian Dennis and Paul Robinson will be at Old Trafford, so the commentary is on 5 Live, as is Manchester City's next match against Chelsea on Saturday tea time. The big tests keep coming for Manchester City with their run of matches that are coming up in the league, but what a test it's been for them tonight. They were 2-0 up through Grealish and Haaland, but Dembele, Barcola and that header from João Neves have turned this match completely around, and it means that Paris Saint-Germain are now in 23rd with this scoreline, whereas Celtic are now all the way up to 18th in the table, leading as they do at Celtic Park against bottom of the table Young Boys, who already knew they weren't going to be able to progress to the knockout stages. 12 teams go out at this stage, and that they don't drop down into any other European competition anymore. Finish in the bottom 12 of this table, you are out of Europe completely, and that is where Manchester City, the winners of the Champions League in Istanbul back in 2023, find themselves with this scoreline. Back to Glasgow, Ailey Barber.
Where Celtic's Dejan Maeda, who has been superb tonight, is being shown the red card by the referee. He is making his way off the pitch. It was a VAR red card review, his yellow card upgraded to a red card, so Celtic down to 10, but they crucially lead here by that 1-0.
Here in Paris, Manchester City have a throw on the halfway line. We've got 2 minutes of the 90 to play. if City are able to pull a goal out and get something out of this, that would be escape of escapes.
Oh, it would be a smash and grab, wouldn't it? Just get out with a point here from, well, at 2-0 you wouldn't have said that, but certainly as this game's gone on, PSG, the reaction they've shown, you know, that was the question I asked as soon as that went 2-0 down, and this place was definitely silent. I mean, the support really did drop off. How are they going to handle it? This is a test for this group of players, and I think they've really answered that question well. You know, Luis Enrique will be delighted with his team.
Yes, stands with the rain pouring down and pitter-pattering on the top of the grey hood of his anorak, and Rico Lewis concedes a free kick on the halfway line. 1 minute of the 90 to play. Paris Saint-Germain leading 3-2. Manchester City, who lost a 3-goal lead against Feyenoord in the Champions League, lost a 2-goal lead in the second half here in the Parc des Princes. And Pacho playing the ball back to Donnarumma. Donnarumma then right-footed out here to the left-hand side, where Hakimi brings the ball down under pressure from Bernardo Silva. They go back to Pacho on the edge of his own penalty area. Donnarumma very carefully comes across and places a pass out towards the left-hand side. As there is news of another goal at the Emirates with you, Conor McNamara.
Yes, right at the very end, Arsenal have got their third, and for the first time the scoreline begins to represent the sort of dominance that Mikel Arteta's team have had all evening. Martin Odegaard, a tap in from close range. Arsenal 3, Dinamo Zagreb 0.
Dembele through to Gonzalo Ramos in the penalty area, who forced a save from Ederson. That could easily have been 4-2.
Well, whenever there's a switch of play that PSG have used all game, City just aren't capable of keeping up with that kind of move. The switch comes out to the right-hand side. Hakimi's bombing forward as Dembele's on the ball. I mean, the energy that they've had in this game, PSG, has just been far superior to what City have been able to put out there, and it's really showing now in the final stages.
3 minutes of added time. Gonzalo Ramos holds the ball up, and then John Stones is able to intercept it on the halfway line. City go back to their goalkeeper Ederson, who's also made saves in this game. That goal line clearance in the first half as well from Gvardiol, the goal that was disallowed. Here's Haaland, but it bounces off Haaland. And Zaire Emery, I think, might have been fouled. No, the referee says not. Haaland, Marquinhos is protesting about that. Grealish to Haaland. Haaland's attempted cross is blocked behind by Pacho, and it's a corner for Manchester City. And Donnarumma has said something. Referee Marciniak is running across to him. Marquinhos also. They feel that Zaire Emery was fouled by Haaland, and I think they might have had a case.
I agree. I think there is a bit of a grab and a pullback from Haaland. I mean, he managed to wrestle the ball away, but it's great from Pacho, the centre-back. He's made a couple of really important interceptions in this second half.
Here's the corner. Gundogan. Donnarumma dives, and he's able to punch it away, and the referee has blown his whistle and spotted a foul in there, and he's given the free kick to PSG.
I mean, that is a lovely sound of the whistle for PSG, who are nearly home and dry. Donnarumma at full stretch with his right hand punches the ball, doesn't get a lot of high. I'm not sure there's too much of a foul in there, to be honest. I think the referee just saw the cluster of bodies and decided to give a free kick, but they've nearly done it. 2 minutes gone in extra time.
We're in the final minute of added time now here, and the flags are up all around the ground in front of us. In the cheap seats, well, I'm not sure if there are any cheap seats.
Does that exist?
I'm not sure about that. But certainly in the expensive seats as well, those blue and red flags with the Eiffel Tower, the logo and the fleur-de-lis are being waved with some gusto as Manchester City play it back to Ederson, who will strike it long and left-footed. But that's headed forward for PSG. And then Hakimi is in there. It bounces through to Gonzalo Ramos, who I think was in an offside position. He puts the ball in the net, but the offside flag is raised. And I don't think you'll mind too much about that, because this will tick down some more seconds.
It will. I mean, I think he's arguing as to who the ball came off of. I think that's the question. There's no doubt he was offside. But I think they're wondering whether it was a Manchester City touch that put the ball forwards. I think it's his own player that wins it. I think it's Hakimi that wins the ball. He finishes it lovely though.
Yeah, well, it might have come.
It might have been Guardiola, you know.
Yeah, they might be having a look at that. In fact,
it is Guardiola.
Yeah,
that's a goal.
The referee is saying, "Hang on,
that's a goal."
The referee is just about to. He's listening. He's clearly listening to the VAR.
I don't think it touched the Paris player.
It looks as though it came off Guardiola and through to Gonzalo Ramos, who was in an offside position, but it came off the Manchester City man. Therefore, it should be a goal. And we're waiting here. Just listen out for this. If this goal is given now, which it should be by VAR, and you can hear the build-up to it. You can hear the build-up. This to give the goal, to make it 4-2. Gonzalo Ramos is waiting. PSG are waiting. The Parc des Princes is waiting. And still they are examining this clearly, very, very carefully. Still there's no decision.
Wow. It's a long wait, isn't it?
I don't know how many angles they're looking at.
We've watched a couple of replays. I mean, it did look. I mean, that there might be something we're not seeing.
And the referee now turns away. No, still no decision. He's played to the gallery there. He looked as though he was going to give the decision. And still we wait. Still we wait on here. And the issue must be whether it came off Guardiola and then flicked the PSG player who was challenging Guardiola. That's the only thing I can think.
I mean, the angle's opposite. It just looks like Guardiola's kind of shoulder/chest that hits the ball.
I mean, we're now in the 5th minute of added time.
I mean, you feel it's going to be irrelevant, but they're taking a very long time to check this out. Unless there's something else they're looking at, John, in the build-up.
Possibly, yeah. And here we are. There's the rectangle. The goal is given. The 4th goal for Paris Saint-Germain is confirmed. Manchester City are beaten here, and Gonzalo Ramos leads the celebrations as all of the PSG players race into the corner down here, in front of the cameras, in front of all of the PSG supporters with their flags. The final whistle has gone. It's 4-2, and Manchester City have been they have been left here by a Paris Saint-Germain onslaught in the second half. They were 2-0 up, and PSG have stormed through and back and beyond them. 4-2 the final score, and Manchester City are in the elimination places. They are facing knockout in the Champions League next week. They have to win and also hope that other results go their way.
Well, incredible stuff here at Parc des Princes. What a game, what a moment. I mean, Pep Guardiola is going to have to really pick his team up now, because this is a devastating defeat, to be honest, after being 2-0 up. To concede 4 goals in that manner in the second half, it just shows that frailty that they have. There's something there that the team is just falling away in those really pivotal moments, and they haven't got the strength to kind of see anything through when they're up against opposition of this kind of calibre. But I have to say, the word surprised doesn't quite cover it with how I feel about how PSG have played tonight. They have put out their some performance for their manager. Big question marks and murmurings and moanings about him before the game, but I tell you what, his team gave it all right to that very last goal. They were the team pressurising the whole time. The fitness levels through the roof. They deserved it. There's no doubt. You can't look at this game and think PSG deserved that win. All credit to them.
Remarkable match here. They're partying in the stands. PSG have moved right up to 22nd in the table with this scoreline, so they've moved out of the elimination places, and Manchester City now in 25th, and you have to finish in the top 24 to qualify for the knockout stages, and it's all going to come down to the former European champions, Manchester City, who this season were hoping to reach the final for the third time in 5 years. In fact, they're facing elimination from the Champions League next week. What a game, what a second half, with 6 goals in it. Manchester City 2-0 up through Grealish and Haaland, but PSG coming back through Dembele, Barcola, João Neves, Gonzalo Ramos. Final score, PSG 4, Manchester City 2.
Absolutely astonishing. John Murray, I'm just looking at the Champions League table now. So because City are 25th, and they're only 3 points behind Bruges, who they obviously play in the final fixture, if they win that game, they do go through, because they only need to get above one team, and it would take them above Club Bruges. However, after a night like this and a season like this, take nothing for granted with Manchester City.
No, we can't, because they looked as though they were back on course. They looked as though they'd found their form again. This is their first defeat of 2025, and it's plunged them back into crisis, really, because of the manner of it. Because people will say, well, it happened against Feyenoord, 3-0 up, and they ended up drawing 3-3, and here 2-0 up, and they lose 4-2.
Matt, it's not the first time we've seen this story, but it just feels bigger. The manner of it, remarkable.
Yeah, it will do, because it's on the biggest stage, on the biggest night, against a big team where the pressure's on. They're having a recovery, a resurgence, and then bang, you beat down again. And I think that, you know, the psychology behind it, where the team is at, it's difficult to take. I think it's difficult for the manager, and they've got to pull together. It's a hard moment for the team and the squad and the coach. So, you know, all you can do is stick together in these times and make the best of it. But there's something there, certainly when they go ahead, where they just seem to drop off, and that maybe the energy levels, the distances aren't right. Steve, it's too easy for the PSG players to get hold of the ball, and then they've got momentum to run at players. When I compare the two teams, it was night and day. Bernardo Silva, Kevin De Bruyne, anyone Foden got on the ball, they had a navy blue shirt ratting after them, the pressure's on, they're snapping at their heels, they're not allowing them any momentum or any speed to get anything built. Whereas with City, the distances, they're just too far off, and the opposition run riot.
So we've got loads more reaction to come from inside the Parc des Princes with Matt Upson, with John Murray between now and 10:30. City will need to beat Club Bruges to qualify for the playoff knockout in the Champions League, but Celtic will be there. Just Ailey Barber.
They will indeed. For the first time in 12 years, Celtic have progressed to the knockout stages of the Champions League. They scored 3 really nicely worked goals in the first half, all finished by Kyogo, all 3 chopped off. Engels then missed from the penalty spot, and you wondered if perhaps it just wasn't going to be their day, but luck turned in their favour. With minutes left, Adam Ida released his shot, saved but cannoned back off Young Boys captain Benito and into the back of the net. Cue the jubilation, and it was a monumental effort, but amongst the jubilation, the hugely influential Daizan Maeda was sent off just before the end. But it is Celtic who celebrate tonight. Knockout football secured in a huge night for them, and a really big night too for Scottish football. It finished Celtic 1, Young Boys 0.
And with all of the drama going on elsewhere, Arsenal sitting pretty, Conor McNamara.
Yes, this was very calm. This was very composed all night. Declan Rice scored early, in just after a minute played. Really good finish after an eye-catching build-up. Kai Havertz was to make it 2 midway through the second half, a header from a Martinelli cross. And then Martin Odegaard got the third in stoppage time at the end. A close-range tap-in after a Trossard cross had deflected into his path. That's only Odegaard's second goal of the season in all competitions. Dinamo did not have a threat worthy of mention. As I said, calm, controlled by Arsenal. One little highlight in the second half was the return of Ethan Nwaneri, who looked sharp after his return from injury as a second half substitute. Arsenal cruising. They win 3-0 here. They are third place in the Champions League table, and going into the last game, there's still the chance that Arsenal could finish in the top 2.
In the Championship, Leeds have gone back top after beating Norwich by 2-0. Other scores: Portsmouth 3, Stoke City 1, Sheffield Wednesday 2, Bristol City 2, and at home park, Plymouth Burnley. John Akers.
Yeah, big night for Burnley. Terrible night for Plymouth. Plymouth 0, Burnley 5. All the goals coming in the first half. Fleming got a couple, Laurent got a couple, Cullen got the final one of the half in stoppage time at the end of the first half. Lots of mistakes at the back from Plymouth Argyle. Burnley hadn't scored more than 2 since August. They've put that right, and now over 9 hours in the league without conceding is extraordinary. Back up to third, 3 points behind Leeds, who are at the top, of course, and 14 without a win now in the Championship for Plymouth. 6 adrift of safety, 60 goals conceded. That's a EFL and Premier League high, and no Morgan Whittaker in the squad. It looks like he could be on his way to Burnley, tonight's opponents, or maybe to Middlesbrough. We'll see. Plymouth 0, Burnley 5.
Thank you very much, John. There is literally no better way than Burnley and Middlesbrough fighting over a striker to bring Tony Livesey into the conversation.
I'm just mindful of a conversation we had out there about an hour ago when you said Burnley can't score any goals.
I didn't say that.
You did. You won't go up, you can't score. That's what you said.
I said Burnley won't go up automatically. And they're only 2 points outside the top 2. So there's every chance that I'm going to be proved massively wrong.
Well, if the Whittaker's watching tonight, I know where he'll want to go. and of course, Burnley's a wonderful place to live.
Maybe he'll be listening from 10:30 and he'll change his mind.
Yeah, well, he'll have to. We've got a good show tonight.
Yep.
More Donald Trump stuff, because obviously every time he speaks we learn something new. He's given a blanket pardon to all the rioters from Capitol Hill. We're going to speak on the show to one of the policemen who was injured that day to see what he makes of it. Well, I've already spoken to him, let's be honest, and it's really interesting the switch from what he felt when those people were jailed to what he feels today when they're being released. So that's a really interesting interview. Mike Joyce from the Smiths joins us to talk about their legacy. And the whole world, Steve, is waiting. I know, well, the whole world's waiting for you to carry on talking football, but I'm going to tell them about this anyway. The whole world's waiting for the world's smelliest flower to bloom.
Sure.
There's a webcam on it, and we're going to be watching that live on the show.
Can I just say I enjoy how old school you are? You've got John Bennett and I sitting in this studio, surrounded by screens and everything. You just go in with a scrap. It's not even a full sheet of A4. It's a scrap.
I found it on the floor, and I thought I'll write my trail on it. I'm losing the plot. When I sat down here, I thought I must put my seatbelt on. I think I'm going mad.
Do you want to go and come back at 10:30?
And I've not been drinking tonight, which is unusual.
Remarkable.
Anyway, right, I'm going.
Have a good one.
See you later.
Other football scores to bring you up to date with: Women's League Cup quarter-finals. So we now know the lineup for the semi-finals, actually. So Brighton 0, Arsenal 4. Arsenal will play Manchester City, who beat Manchester United 2-1, and Tottenham 1, West Ham 2. West Ham will play Chelsea, who beat Durham by 5-0. All of the best Champions League roundup and reaction. Gary Cahill's going to join us. We'll be with our team in Paris again, and we'll see what reaction we can bring you between now and 10:30 when Tony takes over. Let's get the news now on 5 Live with Jill McKenzie.
The voice of the UK.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
The publisher of The Sun has apologised to Prince Harry and the former Deputy Labour leader Lord Watson for intrusions into their private lives. News Group Newspapers, which is owned by Rupert Murdoch, has agreed to pay substantial damages, which the BBC understands totals more than £10 million. Nathan Sparks is from the campaign group Hacked Off.
1,300 claims have been settled by News Group newspapers over a decade, all to maintain this argument that the Sun was not involved in illegal behaviour of any kind. And yet today, finally, they have admitted all of that was untrue, that the Sun was involved in illegal activities.
Tributes have been paid to the 12-year-old boy who was fatally stabbed in Birmingham yesterday. Leo Ross was on his way home from school when he was attacked. A 14-year-old's been arrested on suspicion of murder. Leo's family says he was funny, sweet, and had not one aggressive bone in his body. Hannah was in the same class as Leo. She spoke to the BBC alongside her mother, Sima.
He was like a nice, kind kid, and he'd just do his work and get on with it, and helpful as well, and very welcoming. Yeah, so I was upset that he had passed away. I think it's like really sad and ridiculous that this had happened and all.
It's very scary because you send your child to school in the morning and you wouldn't ever think that they won't ever come back. So that thought is devastating, and it's very scary.
The Defence Secretary John Healey says a Russian ship was spotted loitering around UK waters near critical undersea infrastructure. He told the Commons he'd authorised a Royal Navy submarine to surface next to the vessel to warn the Russians they were being watched. Fast-moving wildfires have broken out again in California. Strong winds are battering the state. Residents to the north of Los Angeles have been told to leave their homes after a fire grew to more than 5,000 acres in about 2 hours. And President Trump has suspended all refugee travel to the United States, including for people who already have permission to enter. An executive order signed by the president says the US has been inundated with record levels of migration.
5 Live Drive with Chris Warburton and Claire McDonald.
Welcome to Drive. We've got loads for you this afternoon, but let's get straight to our top story.
There'll be some people looking at that thinking, I can't believe you're even considering it.
Let me be absolutely clear. A warning from the NHS that a tidal wave of flu is hitting hospitals across the country.
The day's biggest news.
5 Live Drive
with Chris Warburton and Claire McDonald. Weekdays from 4. Ask your smart speaker to play BBC Radio 5 Live.
This is 5 Live Sport.
The Champions League with Steve Crossman.
Listen on BBC Sounds.
Good evening, welcome back to 5 Live Sports. So Tony Livesey is on the way at 10:30 tonight. What an evening we've had in the Champions League. We're going to wrap it all up between now and 10:30. Loads to get through. We'll give you all of the big stories involving Manchester City, who somehow, some way in the Champions League are 25th after a crazy night in Paris. Arsenal looking very secure of their spot automatically in the last 16 of the Champions League. And Celtic as well, victorious tonight. Knockout round Champions League football returns to Scotland. So a massive story there as well. We'll also tell you about some of the big stories involving the non-British clubs. Bayern Munich were beaten heavily tonight in Feyenoord. Bayern are 15th in the Champions League table, so they're in trouble. Remember, the final is in their stadium this season. The last time it was, Gary Cahill was lifting the trophy for Chelsea. Good evening, Gary.
Good evening. What an intro that is. Thanks for that.
Well, this is the first time I've spoken to you, so I thought big him up immediately and get him on side.
Love that.
So we've got Gary with us for the next 20 minutes, and there's only one place to start. It's in Paris. Paris Saint-Germain 4, Manchester City 2. The stadium was going absolutely crazy. Matt Upson and correspondent John Murray are there. And John, Manchester City, when they take the lead, doesn't matter if it's at home, doesn't matter if it's abroad, you just never know what to expect.
Well, it's been quite a night in the pouring Parisian rain here at the Parc des Princes, and it ends with Manchester City in the elimination places. It was a goalless first half, but it was exciting enough. Gvardiol performed a goal line clearance. Hakimi had the ball in the net, but VAR ruled it out. But the second half, goodness me, City shocked the French champions with 2 goals in 3 minutes from substitute Grealish and Haaland. And it looked like Pep Guardiola's team had ridden out the storm, but not a bit of it. PSG then stunned City with 2 goals in 4 minutes of their own. Substitute Dembele and Barcola. The French turnaround was complete when the excellent João Neves headed in from a free kick to edge them in front. And the last act of the match saw substitute Gonzalo Ramos's goal confirmed by VAR for a win that lifts them out of the elimination zone and drops City in there, and they have to beat Club Brugge in Manchester next week to make the knockout stage.
And all of this, Matt, after 2 Manchester City goals where, let's be honest, the ball bobbled around a couple of the times quite favourably for City. So they got themselves in this position and then they just collapsed. I don't want to take too much away from Paris Saint-Germain, but they did collapse.
Yeah, they did, and I agree. There was an element of fortune to the City goals, both of them actually, but they came from the fact of real positive drive-in play. First one from Akanji, and then from Nunez from the right back position. So the 2 defenders really did make it happen. Then there was some good fortune, but I felt like they earned it. And then it was just it's hard to explain. The distances were miles off. The moment PSG got a little bit of confidence back and they got that first goal, you just knew there was a feeling through this ground that there's big trouble for City here. They couldn't recover. They were miles off the ball, off every man, people running off them. They weren't getting tight enough, and it was just comfortable for PSG, chance after chance. Every time they turned it over in the middle of the park, they were on for an attack. And their midfield players, we've already mentioned João Neves, who's man of the match. He was just absolutely outstanding this evening.
Gary, you've obviously played in that stadium in the Champions League. The atmosphere is always fascinating, I find, because when things are going against PSG, it gets very quiet. But when their tails are up, it's spectacular, isn't it?
Certainly is, especially on these European nights. But I felt that the reaction of the PSG team to go 2-0 behind and the way that they reacted, in that moment, and the fans was behind him as well. The second half had absolutely everything. I'm still trying to be honest, pick the bones out of it. It was like 4 goals in 10 minutes, was it? And disallowed goals, the VAR towards the end. What a game of football to watch, especially that second half.
Is it a stadium that can just get on top of you if things start going a little bit wrong?
Yes, the growing confidence. I think the times that I've played there, the memories I have been starved of possession. I feel like they create a philosophy in a team that like to have the ball and keep the ball. But we're talking about 2 teams that like to do that, because obviously Man City are very much the same. But for me today, the impressive thing from this PSG team was the reaction after going 2-0 down. Like you just spoke about, then the fans could be a bit subdued, even get on the back. That wasn't the case at all. They almost found another gear. And I think the interesting thing watching the game today was the PSG press. It was spoke about a lot during the game. I thought the press was very interesting, the way the intensity they did it, the way they went man for man all over the pitch. Worked in their favour at times, and also worked against them at times. I think Matt's just said with the 2 City goals came from 2 great runs, and that is the way you beat man-to-man press. Bit of individual quality, which opened them up. But time and time again, they pressed high, they pressed aggressively, and they forced Manchester City into mistakes. We saw it with Kovacic with one of the goals. Edison's distribution the second half was, he's one of the best goalkeepers I've ever seen with his feet. But they forced that with the intensity they pressed that.
Gary, I couldn't believe the fitness levels, mate, because you're talking about a team that plays in a league where they're on cruise control for a lot of the time. So to then switch it up to this level, they kept going the whole game with that intensity. It was impressive, wasn't it?
It was impressive to watch, and like you said, real high intensity, but such as the importance of the game. That was a big game today for both sides. And it looked like Manchester City, was cruising. And I think the only thing at the moment that's crept into this City team is before Manchester City go 2-0 up, they manage the game so well. They keep the ball, they dictate play. And at the minute, that's just what they're lacking. I saw them against Brentford, not too long ago, 2-0 up, obviously 2-2 at the end of that. So that's just a little thing that's crept in with the Man City team at the minute. But I agree with what you said about, the intensity they press that. It's so difficult when you've got the ball and someone's right at you. It goes again, the next person's in pressing. And like I said, it created Manchester City to make a lot of mistakes in this game today through the press.
This was an absolute classic, Steve.
Yeah.
When we talk about matches where they miss Rodri, this was absolutely, this was probably Exhibit A.
And that's more or less exactly what I was about to say, Matt, it is this issue of control. And it seems a ridiculous question to be asked, but why is it that Manchester City can't cope with going 2-0 up?
Well, I think John's mentioned obviously a key ingredient in Rodri, but it's not just as simple as that. I think the confidence has been dented, and that's not an easy thing. You don't walk into Tesco's and buy confidence off the shelf. Do you know what I mean? It's something that gets built, and it happens over time, and they've done that at this football club over years of being successful, and it's taken a massive jilt. So all of a sudden, when you're up against it, the frailty's there, and I think physically they don't quite seem the same team, but I think that links back into the confidence. It's a psychological thing, the running, the getting tight, the winning the duels, the 50-50s, the loose balls that you're anticipating. PSG were coming out on top in nearly all of them, which links to the fact that it looked like they wanted it more. And I'm not saying they did want it more than the City players, but they showed that on the pitch better by those kind of situations. And I think once you get that sinking feeling that you're not as competitive as what you need to be against this kind of team, it's going to fall apart, Steve, and then the holes are going to start to appear, and then you're on the back foot, and then you're in big trouble.
Gary, is there a bit of a link here to something you experienced in your career? Because it's really difficult to find anybody who's experienced something similar to what Manchester City are going through. But one fairly close example, I guess, is you had that season where you won your first Premier League under Jose Mourinho, and then the next season it obviously all went wrong, and he lost his job, and Chelsea ended the season 10th. Did you have a time there where you can kind of empathise with being an elite team, a title-winning team, who for whatever reason suddenly don't seem able to kind of put one foot in front of the other in the way that they did before?
Yeah, and I think it's an element of what Matt's just said, to be honest with you. Even the top players suffer naturally with a little loss of confidence here and there. I can only relate to in the title winning seasons that I played at Chelsea, you went out every week with so much confidence. You went out, wondering how many you're going to win by almost. You concede a goal early, you don't worry, you don't panic, because your formula is of the season. You're in so much confidence, that you can get back into the games. When confidence is down and the run of form is not great, and maybe your personal performances is not great, the minute you go 1-0 down, there's a little seed of doubt in your head, goes, oh, not again. And I feel like even at the top level, there is an element of that. Naturally, they've been through more experience than most, been top players, international players, so they can manage a hell of a lot of situations. But nevertheless, I do feel that is something that has slightly crept in this season. Can it be fixed? Of course it can. I mean, we finished 10th the next season. We ended up winning the league, which is bizarre. I feel like this is a matter of time for Man City. You have absolutely top players, best manager going, one of. It's a matter of time until this flips around, but I feel like that is definitely an ingredient, and I feel like a lack of confidence sometimes, even at the top level, is a big factor.
And it will be punished, John, to differing levels, and playing a team like this. And I know, it's a different model of PSG and that kind of thing, but it's still a very expensively assembled and very talented side.
Oh, massively so. We've been tremendously impressed, Matt, haven't we, by João Neves tonight, who's only 20 years old, but they spent almost 70 million euros on him when he was 19 years old. But he was he played so well, didn't he, tonight?
Yeah, I mean, we were really having a good chat. I mean, I think it was earlier, wasn't it, about the type of players, how much do we know about them, have I seen them play that well yet? I like the look of Barcola, but has he really done it when it's mattered, and Duo and like you say, João Neves for me, which was the real surprise package this evening, to see him in the flesh and see him have that type of performance. You can kind of understand that price tag.
But they are paying that kind of figure for players across the field. The 19-year-old Doué, who I thought did well in the first half, he's 50 million euros as well. Nuno Mendes, the Portuguese fullback, that's best part of 40 million euros. I don't know, I could pick out Pacho, for example, central defender. That's 40 to 45 million euros. These are big PSG prices.
I think Dembele was about 50 million euros as well, and they left him on the bench to start with, John.
That's right, yeah. Although he looked sharp when he came on, and he had been ill.
Well, and talk about confidence players as well, Gary. I mean, he's had quite the career, but he is quite clearly at the very top of his game now.
Who's that, sorry?
Dembele.
Dembele. Yeah, of course, yeah. It was a surprise, to be honest, when I saw the team that he was on the bench. Especially this season. I think he scored 7 in the last 5 games or something like that, so he looked a threat when he came on, obviously. Great bit of skill. I know he hit the crossbar. I think he just nutmegged Silva and smashed it off the crossbar.
I love Bernardo Silva's reaction to that, Gary. It went through his legs, and he kind of just blew a face with his lips pursed as if to go, ooh.
I'm sure he could appreciate that, being a top player himself, but it was a beautiful piece of skill.
He did. Dembele, I think, did the press conference as well with Luis Enrique, didn't he, John? So it's quite a surprise to see him not included in the team. But the impression I get is a bit like Manchester City. As far as Luis Enrique goes, expect the unexpected.
Well, unless it was a close call, of course. Yeah. Because as we were saying during the course of the match and earlier, there's a lot of discussion here about Luis Enrique playing with a false 9, and it's not going down terribly well. So maybe it was touch and go whether Dembele was going to be recovered enough to be able to actually start the match.
You can't say it worked brilliantly, didn't it?
Yeah.
To bring him on at the moment that he came on, that half-time switch, I thought was it worked fantastically well.
Yeah, I mean, it's a real tactical triumph tonight for Luis Enrique against his old teammate for Barcelona and Spain. To put one over him in the way that he has here tonight, it's dog eat dog, isn't it?
And I would quite like, actually, just from Matt and Gary, just to get a bit of an assessment of the key goal, if you like, for PSG, the goal that put them in front. Obviously, they scored again in stoppage time, but it was that goal from a set piece, Gary, that Neves heads in at the back post. Defensively, for all of the talk about confidence and control around Manchester City, that was just basically quite poor, wasn't it?
Yeah, I have to agree. I think they'll be very disappointed with that, the way that it's set up. I had to look at it again, to be honest, because obviously Neves had so much time on that back post. It was totally free. And I think in that situation, when obviously you're in your line, I think you've just got to communicate a bit better and shove people out the back. You looked on your right-hand side. If somebody's out the back, you just shuffle that line across a little bit more. And I think that was literally, it's as simple as that. It was a big error, especially at this level, to leave somebody on their own at the back post like that. You get punished.
It was so heavily weighted. It was imbalanced, Gary, wasn't it? That line. The line was good in terms of it was disciplined, but they were so towards the near post. I'm not sure if the substitution, you had a minute and a half of waiting time. It's almost like they weren't tuned in. So when the restart came after Stones had come on, they just weren't ready for the delivery into the box at all.
Yeah, and I'm sure. I'm sure they know as well. You're in the line, like you said. It wasn't a staggered line; it was a great line. It's just when you're on that half turned, obviously you're scanning left and right. You're seeing that someone's on their own in the back post. You have to shuffle that line across, because that's a threat, obviously. And it was a simple finish for him in the end.
I know that put them 3-2 up, Steve. But the key goal for me was the first goal, the first PSG goal. After City had gone to Matheus Nunes, tried to win the ball near the halfway line on Barcola. Didn't need to go for it at all. Just these little tiny decisions at this level opened the pitch up, and they killed them on it. And honestly, the difference in this ground, the feel was incredible. It was quiet as anything. You feel if City had just been clever and managed that game for another 10-15 minutes and not conceded to, even if they were going to concede a tiny bit, a bit later in the game, they might have had more of a chance. But that was a killer goal for me.
So Manchester City, 25th in the Champions League, must beat Club Brugge in their final game if they're to go through into the playoff round. And they will do that if they win that game, because they only need to get above one team, and beating Club Brugge would take them above Club Brugge. So they know that's what they need to do. Celtic, though, can relax. They are through to the Champions League knockout stages for the first time in 12 years. Ailey Barber, they've still got a game to go, so they would have had that extra chance. But given that's at Villa Park, this is the one they really wanted to win.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think anybody inside here who was wanting Celtic victory tonight were relaxed in any way. But Celtic, they came out with such intensity in the first half, and they really took the game to Young Boys. They dominated that first 45. They got in behind. They had the ball in the net 3 times, and 3 times it was disallowed. Kyogo with all 3 finishes. They also missed a penalty in that first half, and they must have thought it wasn't going to be their day. They've had such a hectic schedule of late. 9 games since their last Champions League match. Young Boys, they've only had 2 with a month-long winter break, and you began to wonder if that fatigue might come into Celtic's game, and whether that might be the downfall of not taking advantage of that early pressure. But there's a resilience about this Celtic team. They show it domestically, but they're beginning to also show it in the Champions League, particularly coming back from that 7-1 defeat against Dortmund, to draw with Atalanta, to get the victories here, to take them into the position where they knew a win tonight would guarantee them a playoff place. And right in the dying minutes, Adamida made the run. He got in behind. His shot was saved, but it rebounded off Young Boys captain Benito and into the back of the net. So a touch of fortune in the goal that won it, but they really did deserve the win. They were brilliant, particularly in that first half tonight. Callum McGregor again showed why he's so vital to this Celtic team, and for the first time in 12 years they will play knockout football in the Champions League.
Thank you very much, Ailey. So yeah, the goal that won it, as Ailey says, looks like it's going to go down as an own goal, but it was Adamida, the substitute, who forced it. Here he is.
This feeling is undescribable. We've wanted to come here. This is where we wanted to get to, and we've been great all this season throughout this campaign. So look, we've got here now, and it's still time to push on.
Can you describe what that first half in particular was like to watch from the substitutes bench? Missing a penalty, 3 disallowed goals, and God knows how many other chances.
Yeah, it was quite frustrating, but to be fair to the boys, the first half they played brilliant. There's not many games where that happens. And look, I think the boys were quite confident going into the half, having them goals disallowed. I know it's not nice missing a penalty, but to keep thriving, keep pushing forward. So I think, look, they've come out in the second half. We've all put in a shift, and we've got the points in the end.
There's one more game to come down at Aston Villa next week, but into the knockout stages, what do you think this Celtic team can do in Europe this season?
No, I think we can go far. We've got a great squad. We've come this far. Why not dream big? Look, we've been fantastic all this season. Some of us we want to go to the top, and these are the stages you have to do it in, and we'll go as far as we can.
So Celtic know they're going to be in the knockout playoff. Manchester City need a win to get into the knockout playoff. Arsenal are going through in the Champions League automatically. Beat Dinamo Zagreb by 3-0 tonight, watched by Conor McNamara.
Yeah, you could tell the way this game was going to go inside the opening minute. Steve, Arsenal looked switched on. They were sharp. The passing was crisp. The movement was dangerous. And Dinamo had barely touched the ball before they were picking it out of their own net. Declan Rice scoring after just over 100 seconds. Really nice finish. Eye-catching build-up. And the only surprise by half-time was that Arsenal hadn't added to their lead. Gabriel had a couple of headers close from corners. Raheem Sterling making his first Champions League start for Arsenal. Should have scored, couldn't get the shot away in the edge of the 6-yard box. Eventually Kai Havertz was to make it 2 midway through the second half. Good header from him after a Martinelli cross. And then Martin Odegaard, who had only scored once all season before tonight in all competitions, got in on the act in stoppage time at the end. A close range tap in. So Dinamo, no threat at all on a night when David Raya barely touched the ball. I just walked past the Arsenal press conference for a moment there. I didn't want to go in, Steve, because if I did, I'd be in trouble to come back out again to come speak to you. But just by looking in the window, all I could see was a beaming Mikel Arteta. He was smiling. He's obviously very, very pleased. This was one of those nights when Arsenal looked, the height of their powers under Mikel Arteta. They barely put a foot wrong. And a nice cameo in the second half from Ethan Nwaneri, who, given that, Bukayo Saka is still going to be out for the foreseeable, he came in really, really good, and I think he'll be ready to step in when needed.
Thank you very much, Conor. So Mikel Arteta is going to be able to rest some players if he wants for Arsenal's final game, which is at Girona. Aston Villa face Celtic, Manchester City, Club Brugge and PSV at home to Liverpool. All of those games on the 29th of January. 18 matches, all kicking off at 8 o'clock, John Murray. I bet you're really looking forward to that.
Well, it's going to, as long as everyone's Wi-Fi and connectivity works, it's going to be very exciting for everyone to keep across it. But, Villa against Celtic is going to be some occasion. And for Manchester City now to go into that with a record in the Champions League this season of 1-2, drawn 2, lost 3, and to find themselves facing elimination from Europe is yet another unexpected twist in this torrid season that they're having by their standards.
Yeah. Gary, you played in the normal group stage. We've obviously got this now. You've had some amazing nights in the Champions League. Do you think you would have enjoyed the way it is now, big teams playing big teams more often?
Do you know, I was just going to say, I'm actually enjoying it, watching as a neutral at the moment, watching this new format. I don't know if it's just because it's new and fresh, but I mean, in this last match day, this table's going to be moving every other minute.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at it now. It's going to be so much change in this table. I think it's exciting. Yeah, I've enjoyed it. I really have.
Great stuff. Gary, brilliant to have you with us. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Top man, Champions League winner, Premier League winner, Gary Cahill. Matt Upson, John Murray in Paris. Thank you.
Cheers, Steve.
Correspondent John Murray and Matt Upson at the Park Day Prance. And a man next to me who might not enjoy the permutations quite so much next week is John Bennett. Luckily, there were a couple of things tonight that made it a little bit easier.
Yes, Real Madrid, they went into their game against Red Bull Salzburg a little bit concerned. Comfortable win, 5-1 win. Rodrigo with 2 goals. Brilliant assist. One of those goals by Jude Bellingham, by the way. Check that out on the BBC Sport website. Vinicius Jr. got 2 goals. And Kylian Mbappe scored his 19th of the season. So they are 16th on 12 points. At the moment, they are seeded in the playoffs. I don't think there's a chance they'll get into the top 8. But the big result of the night, Steve, Feyenoord 3, Bayern Munich 0. This is great news for Aston Villa, because Bayern Munich would have gone ahead of them with a win. But Bayern Munich at the moment, 15th on 12 points. They are struggling to get into the top 8. I don't think they're going to make it either. Brilliant performance by Feyenoord. Bayern Munich had over 30 attempts on goal, but Feyenoord kept them at bay, a 3-0 win.
Great stuff. John, thank you very much indeed. All of that, but I know, Tony Livesey, there's only one result that you cared about tonight.
Yes, I'm surprised you can present with your mouth full as you eat your words, Steve, but there you go.
Do you know what?
What?
The software that is the backbone of 5 Live completely crashed when I went on air. So I've actually done that entire half hour off the top of my head.
Have you?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Well,
no, don't take it back. You said what you said. It's fine.
No. How's John Akers anyway after seeing that wonder performance? Did we get to hear enough of him on air tonight is all I'm asking.
John is quite fond of Plymouth Argyle. So he's not a Plymouth fan. I wouldn't do that, but he's quite fond of Plymouth Argyle. So maybe leave him alone for a bit.
I mentioned it once. I think I got away with it. I won't mention it again. Steve, I shall speak to you anon.
Thank you.
Cheers, tatty bye. Loads to come on Lakes tonight. Let's get the news first of all, though, here on 5 Live and The Sport. Here's Nick Hatton.
The voice of the UK.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
Tony, thank you. The publisher of The Sun has apologised to Prince Harry for intruding into his private life.